Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Let's let
Hope you
Nathan
brought
get
your claims
settled
today.
before we destroy his whole flat earther worldview.
Hey, Nathan Oakley, unban Rumpus.
Nathan, bring back Rumpus. And Zanuck. And Brenda.
No,
They're
not
hungry in the pits today.
We are here to advocate.
No.
We have to give him time. He's got to make coffee or whatever the British people do.
Whatever British people do. Oh,
They have
man.
to get, they gotta get
Hello
fired
and
up.
welcome to Nathan Oakley Live. I'm your host, Nathan
like-
Oakley.
2 o'clock in the afternoon there.
I'm your host, Okie dokie.
Okay. Oh, man.
I used to be able to quote Nathan Oakley's show verbatim.
Yeah.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm
There
your
it
host,
is.
Okie dokie. That's what I used to always say when I heard it.
Yeah. That's funny.
Why are you appealing me to
The question
it
is
is what it is.
What's the
okay?
deal
The
then?
question is, how many intros did he do before he was smart enough to record
Dude,
it?
okay, I'm going to tell you, here's one big major criticism of Nathan's show. He doesn't incorporate his badass 90s, 80s intro anymore. There used to be like an intro, it was like, and the drums were like, killing your family. It was like badass, like, it was crazy. It was like all bombastic, and now it's just like some dubstep thing. And that's okay too. Like, I'm not going to judge that, but man, that shit was awesome.
I did the first one. Adam did the new one.
It was an awesome intro back in
He's
the day.
fluffing you up just to execute.
Yeah,
you,
I can
Don't
smell a
fall
shit.
for it.
I can smell a shit sandwich. Don't worry.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, it's coming. Unban Rumpus. Hey, vote.
Yeah, I did try to get into that. Why are you appealing to me to unban these people? They're not unbanned.
Well,
They're not
okay.
banned. They can join.
Entertaining.
Hold on, Mosfet. Let me say to this. I remember the old days of Nathan Oakley show when I listened to it was just Rumpus jump on. I used to think you were paying Rumpus, and I was like, "This is hilarious. This is like, what the hell is happening?" And it was just a shit show, and I was like, "Oh my god, what am I listening to?" But it was so funny just hearing you guys banter.
It was. It definitely.
I remember you, Brenda, Zanuck, and the rest of it. It was just so hilarious. Like I know that they're just like a distraction. They're kind of more problems than anything else.
But
But
it brought the
I just remember it
entertainment.
was so funny to me. It was just hilarious. I thought it was funny.
It was really entertaining. It was.
Because there's still let me just clarify.
Whoever's
There's
a
still ways
mod
to
in
cancel
here,
them
Flatter
out
Day
from.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Simplicity. No,
Well, I was
gonna
just
say
saying
Flatter
that
Day
there's still ways of canceling them out. You know, I understand Rumpus comes in and just does his little shtick, right? That's what he always does. But you know, now I think, Nathan, there's ways of you can maneuver that where you can be like, okay, that's fun, and we can just put that on hold now. Actually, I have to listen to a whole hour of it. You know what I mean? But it was kind of funny just hearing like him banter off on some sort of theory about
Oh,
this and
man.
that.
You
You're like, what,
moron.
dude? Get a grip, and then you move on.
He had his own character on the
It
show.
was like his own character. Yeah.
Yeah, you utter moron.
Latter-day
so
Saints is trying to open his mic up for whoever's a mod and can help him out.
you're not
Oh, I
really
got it.
appealing to me then. You're more reminiscing about the fun times you had with Peppers.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you just disclaimed all the reasons
I
not to.
I remember the good times. It's good to remember the good times.
Sure, and before he was an outright liar, he was welcome
He
here.
still is, though. Yeah.
Right, but once it's been proven overtly, and he's more than happy to, on 3 separate occasions, deny lying, with it the evidence right there really glaring, then at that point you're like, no, you're not worthwhile of my time anymore. Brenda wanted my kids taken away. She's definitely never coming back here. Who was the other one?
Oh, see,
who
I
else
didn't know
was
the
there?
details. Yeah.
That's the kind of thing these people
Well, I
do.
don't want to advocate for that, but I just remember it. I thought it was funny because it never seemed like he had really. He was just there to debate and argue, and I was always like, Nathan just dispatches with him pretty quickly, and then it just goes into a bickering mode. And I was like, that's kind of funny, but like, I was like, yeah, it was funny that his reoccurrence was always there, and it was just like he was like a character, I guess, as someone said. But yeah, there is a point where it's just like, yeah, this guy's not useful.
Well, I
So
think it would just be
understand.
nice. I think it would just be nice once have a new hungry Glober coming in and just mixing it all up, right? And that's what Rumpus brought. Is that heated, hardcore debate.
But okay, so hold on. Let me tell this to Nathan. As much as I love Flat Earth, and I love the Flat Earth, I love your show. Like I've listened to it for years now. I think as well as I do. There's probably a lull in entertainment factor when you just have a conversation with a panel that are just going to agree with you. And how do we get the Globers to jump into it and have that excitement? I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but I just remember the days where that was just hilarious, hearing these guys say just ridiculous shit.
Okay. Think of this. Think of this as a bar, right? And the door's open and anybody can walk in. That's what this is. So there are certain people who get banned from the bar. We've discussed those already. They're the people who smash up the tables and don't care. Yeah, those people don't get allowed through the door. They don't get past the bouncer. But generally speaking, anybody's allowed past the bouncer. Now you're saying, well, why don't they want to walk past the bouncer? Okay, I don't know. I don't care either. The bar runs, so to speak, and the guests keep coming, and occasionally an out-of-towner will walk in and start a fight. Because that's what the Globers really do here. Now you're saying when the out-of-towners don't come to the bar, there's no fights, and it's far less fun. I like watching the pictures fly across the room and smash against the wall. It's a laugh. And you're like, yeah. But on the other hand, as the bar owner, it's for me, this is much better. Calm. Talking to the panel about how Earth is flat, and from afar, them throwing rocks with messages attached to them going, oh, what's this rock say? Didn't hit a window. But let's have a look anyway. It says you can get an elevation angle from a curved baseline. I've got hundreds of references for it. Hold on. Where's the references? It's just this one piece of paper handwritten. That's what we get chucked at the bar. You go, oh, that's a bit annoying. We'll add it to the collection of rocks that have been thrown from afar.
That's what I'm saying, Nathan. Like the funny part for me was you finding them in like silly situations where they're like all frustrated and they're like they couldn't back themselves out of the corner kind of thing. And it's just a funny circumstance that you were able to navigate them into. And then they ended up saying really silly things. Like I've always ever remembered that as Nathan Oakley's show. It's like Globers just backing themselves into silly situations where they don't know how to argue their way out of it. And it's just hilarious. But I mean, I understand like the educational aspect of, what is the sextant? What is the purpose? Flat Earth, flat Earth. I understand that, but I don't know. Maybe I think you already know what I'm saying, and I know that you know it, and you probably already adapted your understanding of the situation to what you're doing now. So,
an average of once a week, out of towner in my analogy does come in, and when they do, I trim that video out, and the people who are here, not because they need educating in terms of what flat Earth is or how to overcome difficult globe arguments, they just want to be entertained because they're so sick of being ridiculed. They want to watch globers get smashed. That's the bottom line, isn't it?
Well, it's not a humiliation
Yeah,
aspect
well,
of it.
yeah. I have to jump
Well,
in on that.
no. Well, no, it's not just the humiliation aspect. It's that if you believe in a globe, it requires you to believe a lot of things that they haven't personally validated. And when you, Nathan, have personally walked them through their own misunderstandings and their faith in their things that they've never validated, that's a process worth hearing. Like that is the humiliation thing that flat earthers, I think, enjoy, is that we all know they haven't validated any of the things that they're saying. And when you walk them through that process, it's good to hear them admit it every now and then. And I thought that was like the brilliance of the show, is that Nathan walks them through their own misunderstanding to the point where they can't even back themselves out of the corner that they found themselves in.
Right, but just to add to it, I think the fact is, it's like I think the idea would be aimed towards like having another rumpus face, if you will, another glober. I think that was Spice thing.
No.
Another one, another hardcore glober just coming in and just spicing it all up. Yeah, that would be amazing, actually.
They do. I mean, we've had Hoymar recently, briefly, because I forgot why his lying ass wasn't allowed here, bloody Milli Vanilli. How do you say that? Milli Vanilli. Get my tongue around it. Yeah, little shit. No, he came back because I forgot why we stopped him coming here. That was the other one, by the way, I remembered while you were waffling on. So, Zanuck. Yeah, lying shit. And, you're saying that it'd be nice to have another character like that. What? Disruptive, overt liar to spice things up. That's what you want. Yeah, I get it.
No. Well, not in that aspect of the
Well,
line.
hold on, Don. Let me say it. There's a lot of globers. Here's the thing. There's a lot of globers that are supremely confident in their own worldview. And when they confront someone who has a very different worldview than their own, there's the cognitive dissonance. The cognitive dissonance you get to experience as the listener. How could you think of things other than the things that I've been brainwashed into believing? That is the excitement, when you hear a glober who's heard about relativity and all the field equations of Einstein's, and then they're confronted with a helium balloon. It's just hilarious content. I mean, it's like they can't navigate that territory so proudly anymore, and it's so stupid and funny. It's just like, oh man, they're out of touch because most globers don't actually have any practical conversations with people who have
Especially
different opinions, I guess.
especially when they come
That's all I
in,
gotta say.
especially when they come in and through their mic, right, and through the streaming, they sound so confident, right? It's like they have their own character, which does make a show. It really does. Every time you have a debate with a glober and you have those clips that you do, it does make the show. It's amazing.
I've got a couple more coming out over the weekend with Hoymar. With when you say saying stupid stuff, well, you've got Adam Meakin taking him through the steps of reification in terms of manifesting a non-visible horizon by way of a dip angle correction, and it's just Adam laughing at him as he admits how flat it is and all the rest of the things that he admits along the process. And yeah, like I say, about once a week someone will stroll on in and they want to fight with us. They want to tell us how stupid you are. And like you say, they come in sounding so confident. And I think people do love that. They love the fact that they've typically had to endure some wanker who hasn't got a clue about this argument telling them they're stupid. Now, in many instances, they want to see that at a higher level of discussion, which is typically what you'll get here. People aren't going to stroll into the bar without just having a vague idea what they're going to be faced with. And they want to see that high-level discussion result in the fundy with a higher level understanding get fundamentally undone by his own nonsense, or hers.
Yeah, it's like they never talked about it. Like they have a whole bunch of beliefs that when they practically try them out versus a flat earther like yourself or even the panel, it's like, They find out really quickly. Oh, I'm out of my depth here again. But that's the beauty of that's the wisdom of flat Earth to me is that you know you're gonna find out things a lot more complicated than what you were told, and that's the education part of the whole argument. The whole debate is that there's a lot to learn. And when these guys come in here acting like they're going to tell Nathan Oakley and all these other flat earthers what for, it's like, bro, you got a lot to learn. And we're going to walk you through how much you need to learn because the seat at the table, that's just the whole shtick of it, I think, right? I mean, I don't know. I've always ever enjoyed that is that you have the presumptuous Glober comes in, acts like they know. They find out real quickly things are a lot more complicated than they thought. They humble themselves, and then they get to a real conversation that they're not so
Oh,
confident
which
about.
show is that? Which show did that bit happen on?
Every show.
Oh, the Global was humbled, and we had a nice, polite discussion afterwards.
No, okay, so I won't go as far to say they're humbled, but
no, they repeat the same
they
thing ad
should be
nauseam
humbled
37
by
times.
their-
That's
yeah.
the show. So when they get to the point that they're smashed, they then get smashed 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, sometimes 100 more times.
They're not humbled. Yeah, I agree. Well, that's the way we were just talking about Rumpus, right? He's not ever going to be humble about it. But it is kind of funny that well, I mean, what would you call cognitive dissonance? That's the definition of it. If you can't even see the limitations of your own knowledge through a conversation, bro, that's an uphill battle, man. Good luck. You're gonna at least
Yeah, but
humble yourself.
he doesn't need to, bro. He already gave himself a
No,
psychological
he has
out.
full knowledge. I know Rumpus.
Right, but check this out. His breakdown was reality itself can't be trusted, right? And with that, what does it matter? The Earth could be a triangle, simultaneously a wet noodle. You see, so ultimately he has to face no consequences because it's all subjective.
You're referring to his brain in a jar, Matrix-esque belief, right? That he goes to if all else fails.
Yeah, like he did that live on the show. Like he was being pushed into a corner, realized he was in a contradictory position, and then he basically said, well, if I remember correctly, it's something like, well, if the Earth's not a globe and it might be flat, then reality itself isn't real anymore.
I might as well just consider
It's like
myself a brain in a jar.
Yeah. Or a disembodied consciousness having an etheric experience of some kind.
Mentally, in my view, he's only pushing it to that extreme for the person watching, so they can take it mentally to the same place if they haven't had anywhere to go yet. It's just offering a training. That's all he was doing. As far as I could see, he was out there training anti-flat earthers how to be anti-flat earthers. That's all he was doing.
Good morning.
Hey, Tenth.
Hey, that was a good conversation there, by the way. That last thing, if it's flat, then it's something to be denied. That's really him saying, and all of them who are from this side of the argument, there's no way I'm going to allow room in my consciousness for a creator. No way.
Yeah, 10th man, can I tell you one of the best new flat earth arguments I've discovered? Is that it's on the similar line of thinking that you just discovered, or maybe you've already known it for a while, but if you ask a Glober how you substantiate reality, there's never been any answer I've ever received. When you ask a Glober, okay, so if I have empirical reality as my proof, if I'm a flat earther, empirical reality is my fact. I take that for what it is. I see it and I believe it. Globers will say you can't trust your senses, right? So how do you substantiate reality to someone that says they can't trust their senses? Like, how would I even go about proving it to you? You know what I mean?
How do you convert a sophist? You don't.
How do you even try? It's like like you go to the doctor. How can I help you? How do I help you? Like, How do I substantiate reality to you? I don't even know. I've
This,
never got an answer to that.
Yeah. How do
well,
you
that's
get a
what the
Ford
guy
guy
tried doing yesterday.
to buy a Chevy? You don't.
Yeah,
Well,
you
there you
can't. So,
go. No Glober's ever been able to answer how they substantiate reality. So if they told me that, I'd be able to help them, but I can't. So good luck.
oh, Akuma virus. There you go.
What about
So
him?
he said he knows Earth's a globe because of logic. So I told him to give me a logical string or syllogism that proves Earth's a globe necessarily, and he couldn't do it.
Because of logic. Right. So I can
Yeah, and
say,
then
I know Earth's not a
Pata
sphere.
tried to bail him out. Pata tried to bail him out, and his logic was basically ad hom, and then say all the scientific fields agree, therefore it's true.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic.
Just say science, bro.
Well, that goes back
Science.
to your question, Sin Cleanser. It's like you're basically off-putting that faith position to logic, let's say, but you can't present the logic string, so how can that even be coherent? Or like the other guy puts his faith position in a body of network of people, which he hasn't validated anything they've done either.
Well, dude, okay, so let me put this to you. And it's going to be curious because I want to hear everyone's, especially the people who are equipped to actually answer this. Can anybody tell me something in logic that isn't filtered through interpretation? I know there's a lot of Globers, there's a lot of flat earthers that crutch on logic and rationality and reason. But I can't think of anything in rational, logical, reasoning ability that doesn't depend on interpretation. And interpretation to me is the first filter of misunderstanding. There isn't
Okay.
anything
You're
in logic and
confusing
reasoning that
logic.
can't be misinterpreted.
Well, yeah, interpretation and logic aren't really the two things that go hand in hand, are they? If something goes through a logic
Well, people
there is
use
no
logic to try to
interpretation.
interpret.
Computers aren't
Sorry, I
asked
think
to
you cut out.
interpret things, are they? They're not saying, "What do you think about this?" They're saying, "Is it a 1 or is it a 0?" If you don't know, look again. Yeah, or
There
conceal
you
the
go.
error. That's all they can do.
Well, that's my problem with logic and reason and rationality is that there is nothing in rationality, reason, or logic that isn't filtered through interpretation. And if it is filtered through interpretation, it's up to the subjugation of your senses. And if Globers are saying we can't trust our senses, my God, we don't. What are we doing? Like, why are we crushing so hard on logic and reason if we can't trust our senses?
You've done it
Like,
again. You're misinterpreting what logic is versus what interpreting things is. So if your
what's the
computer had
difference?
if your computer had the ability to say, not sure, maybe it's a 1, the whole thing would grind to a halt. It doesn't work like that. Is it a 1 or is it a 0? I don't know means look again and figure out if it's a 1 or a 0. That would be a corrected error. Or if you can't correct the error, you've got to conceal the error. That's it. There's no
Nathan, that's what I'm saying.
interpreting.
That's the
There's
problem.
no interpretation in logic in that regard.
Logic has a problem. If you say it's one from the other, you're making a definitive claim that it is this. A equals A, law of identity. If you say A equals A, you're still filtered through
Well,
interpretation. You
in
have to
Nathan's
interpret it that
example,
way. Logic
well,
isn't.
check this
I
out.
can use logic to validate literally anything. There isn't anything in this reality that I can't use logic to validate. Not a single thing.
Validation.
Video games are created on
Synclenser,
worlds that are based on
stop,
logic.
please. You're contradicting yourself left and right. Because you're saying interpretation and validation. Those two things. What do you mean by validate then? If you're saying it's open to interpretation, if it's been validated, you're just contradicting yourself. It's getting frustrating.
Okay, so if you're a logic believer, you think you can determine fact from falsity by using the laws of logic. You're going to bound yourself by A equals A, the law of identity. If this equals that, if that equals that, you're still interpreting that through your senses to mean that equals that. There is
Hold on,
nothing in
friend.
logic or reason or rationality. It isn't filtered by interpretation, and interpretation
What
can be
sense?
misleading.
When
That's
you
my
when
point.
when you're analyzing logic within your mind and you're thinking of how it works, before you input anything from the external world into it, what sense are you using?
Can your senses be right? Can your senses be wrong? If you're going to trust
Right.
your senses,
But
then
I'm
you're
saying
going to concede to the fact
before you
that
input anything from
logic
the
is the
external
first
senses.
filter of misinterpretation.
Okay, but before
How
you
would you
input
disagree?
anything from the external world, think about it. Before you put anything from the external world into logic, and you're just aware of logic within your mind, what sense are you using?
If you believe, I'm going to say your name, Abstruse Angles. If you believe there's something that is true, you have filtered that through the lens of interpretation. You have interpreted that to be true. You haven't validated anything. At best, you could say axiomatically, I've defined it to be true. But that isn't necessarily true
Yeah,
or
but
false.
anyway,
You've just
I
defined
asked a
what
specific
you
question,
perceive to
though.
be true. That isn't actually a truth. And I'm saying that most of people's understanding
Hey, it's a
is
sing cleanser.
filtered through
Sing
logic.
cleanser. Flailing your way through it, verbal diarrhea style.
Okay, let me go back to
I'm just
Nathan's
going to try to
example.
be
Where
anti-logical.
where does the
Sing cleanser.
computer?
I
Where does the
gotta try and get
computer?
control of sing cleanser first. Please don't dominate this conversation. 90% of it. Like, try and adhere at least to the 60-40 rule. Like, listening 60% of the time, talking 40.
I win.
I knew it would be you answering. I knew it would be you.
Damn, you tricked off your chance too. You jacked him off the whole time instead of attacking.
I
Okay.
don't know what to tell you. I just won. It just happened.
I'm still waiting to answer the question.
Abstracted. Go ahead.
If somebody was to tell you that they ran down the street and then you looked and saw that they had no legs, wouldn't it be logical that that person lied? And it's not an interpretation. You see that person could not have run down the street because he has no legs.
No.
Isn't that logic?
No, that's not logic.
No, it's not logic.
Why? To assume
So the
to
guy,
come to the conclusion that
the guy that shot his own girlfriend, right? Got no legs. So he's sat in front of you, no legs. So yeah, I was running down the street, and you look at him, he's got no legs. Yeah, he's got attachable legs though, hasn't he? So he did run down the street. I can think of an easy answer to that, like failing.
But
I'm
Nathan, that's the beauty. Hold on,
No.
Scrat. To answer your question and answer Nathan's, the beauty
you
of
were gonna
my
take a
argument.
break.
I know.
Hold on, listen.
He's not going to.
The
Nobody else
beauty
is
of
allowed
my
to talk.
argument.
I wanted to say something there, but he jumped in.
Okay,
The defense.
I'll debunk you too, 10th man.
That's you. Why don't you
Welcome
just get
to
it
the
all
Big Brother
out?
Show. Come
Get
on.
it all out, so then we have some air to breathe here.
Can I get it all out? Because there isn't anything in logic that isn't bound by the filter of interpretation. There is no logic that isn't filtered by interpretation.
I've heard
That's
that
my
10
point.
times already. How many more times you want to say it?
How are you going to rebut it?
I'm not trying to rebut it. I'm trying to tell a pun.
People to talk, we might hear somebody refute that nonsense.
Anyway, in that one case where the guy shot his girlfriend, the defense had no leg to stand on, so he lost.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I want to talk about.
Hold on for a second. I want to clarify what I was saying.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Nathan gave the floor and everyone ignored
He didn't have
so.
any legs. That means no detachable. He had no legs at all. So if he has no legs, whether prosthetic or not, if he has no legs, how could he have run down the street? That's what I'm saying.
Telekinesis.
Great example.
I think the point I was making was over your head.
Thanks, Sinclair. Thanks. Go ahead, Abstracted. We'll try again. It was about 10 minutes gap, but I haven't forgotten.
So in the computer example, the computer gets input from the external world beyond its programming, right? The input is entered in. It then analyzes it through whatever logic strings have been given to it by the programmer. Okay, it didn't create them itself. It was given them. And so you could consider that the faculty that the computer possesses. And in the same way, that's what we do. We get information from the outside world and we analyze it through our faculties, which we already possess. We didn't create them. We didn't learn them. They exist innate within us.
Adam,
Without this being true in the first instance, it'd be impossible for us to even learn.
That was the point I was getting at. There is nothing in logic, reason, or rationality that isn't filtered by
not what I said.
interpretation. Yeah, well, you just agree with it, regardless of whether you want to admit it or not. You just agree with it.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you again.
What a timeout
Can
is?
you?
My gosh.
Okay, 10th man, you want to make a pun? Go ahead.
No, it's not a pun. Do you
That's
know
right.
what a timeout is? You were asked to sit on the bench for a while, let others talk. You're not.
Well, you got
allowed
nothing
that.
to
You
say?
still-
Okay,
you
thank
still
you.
think now you're ad homing. Now you're trying to sound smarter.
You're just complaining. There's mods that can do what you're trying to do.
Oh, so the host of the show tells you to take a timeout and you don't, and I'm complaining.
Stop
Nice
trying to
diversion.
manipulate the mods and telling them what to
Nice
do.
diversion.
Sinclair, I just want to say hello to Adam. Just give us a couple of seconds.
Can I get some help here, Nath?
Hello. How you doing?
Hi, mate. Yeah, well, I'm in Brum. It's Primark. So I just need a bit of directions which way to go to find this ball.
It's right in the middle. So you buy the market, okay. So you buy the church then, yeah? Can you see some market?
Yeah, the church at Cars Lane, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Head towards that church, go up the ramp, there's the bull.
Good man. Right, I'll hang up and I'll drop back in a sec now. I've got access, so I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, you're heading, it's signposted. You should be able to find your way from there. But it's easy.
Cool. Hopefully they're there. I've not actually checked yet.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a rush this morning. Right, I'll see you in a bit, guys.
You're there though, you're in a good spot.
Cool. All right, see you in a bit, mate. Cheers.
Tell by the look on his face.
Adam, the
Right.
life.
So if you can't trust the information acquired by your senses, which is a second order knowledge because it's external to the mind, and you can't trust your own mind because it's first order knowledge, because it's primary experiential, then that means you can't trust anything and reality is unknown. And that means everything's subjective at any given moment. And there is no reality that you can know ever, period. Because you have no way of discerning anything or knowing
You're
what's
the
true or
one
what
that
isn't.
believes in logic. You're the one that's telling the stories. I can see the sun move above me. No story required. You, if you're a glober, want to tell me all about a story about orbital mechanics and whatever you believe.
What are you
I
talking
can
about?
be a flat earther and see the sun. No story required. No logic required. I see things for what they are.
What kind of
Okay.
response
Only
is
a
that? He
glober
just
could talk you into
using your
believing
senses
Oh,
of
God,
seeing.
oh my
Logic.
God, it's just, you've got verbal diarrhea. You've made your point. We've listened. A couple of people might want to actually respond. Or did you want to respond to your own comment?
I'd like to respond to my own comment.
Can you not?
I actually didn't really care either way.
That's why you're dragging the show down right now, because you don't care.
You don't have any arguments. That's why you can't contribute to anything.
You said
Sorry.
you saw the sun. You saw the sun. Let's see. You saw it with your senses. I take it.
Yeah, I perceived it. Yeah, no language
Yeah.
required.
Okay. Great. So we all see that. Now what?
Now you think you need logic to tell you what to believe?
No, I didn't say that. You said that. Don't put words in my mouth.
You're the logic believer. Tell me what you think I should believe.
Well, how do
because
you know
can
what
see
I
it
am?
and
I
have
haven't been able
need
to
for logic.
respond. There you go again. Diarrhea of the mouth. You don't know what I believe. I never said I was a logic believer. You put that in my mouth. I'm trying to
Tell me what you
ascertain what your
believe.
point is, but you're like running all over the place, not allowing someone
I
to
can
talk.
tell you
or,
what I believe, but
why don't you be quiet for
I
a
think
minute?
you've heard it. Because you have nothing to say. You're just flailing and you have
There
no
you
actual
go. There you
argument.
go,
You're just
having your own
complaining.
argument with yourself, thinking you're
Complain
winning.
more.
Now, this
And
guy's
it's just
this
like
guy's
what
a
I said
brat.
earlier. You don't let anybody talk.
What do you
Like I
have to
said it
say?
earlier,
What do you have to
you
say,
just keep
Scrat? Go
talking.
ahead.
He's a
I'm
narcissist.
saying
Hello,
it
Mr.
straight
No
up right
Argument
now.
Guy wants to
Stop.
complain
Sing
about
cleanser,
he's
sing
got
cleanser.
nothing to say.
Shut
Go
up
Everyone
ahead.
stop for a
and let
second.
me talk.
So, Sinclair, you've succeeded in descending my pre-show into chaos. Thank you for that. When
You're
somebody
welcome.
is trying to respond to you, it doesn't require you to ask them what they want to say and then demand that they say it, because all that's doing is stopping them from being able to do so. Now, it's a cheap trick that people like Rumpus used to use. Do it again, I'll kick you out. It's that simple. One warning, do it once more. You no longer take part in the conversation. If somebody's trying to talk, don't say, go ahead, what have you got to say? What's your argument? I want to hear it. You haven't got... Shut up. Let them respond. Last warning.
I
Go
would
ahead.
like to hear 10th Man's
Right,
counter.
bye-bye. Goodbye, Sinclair. You're a dick.
I do like sin.
Damn, Sin tricked his fucking opportunity off.
Immediately
Lost his
does
mod
the
and
exact
everything.
thing I've asked him not to do. So get lost.
Stupid
You're a
ass.
disruptive prick. You're not going to take part in the conversation if you're going to do that. I've specifically outlined what I've asked him not to do, and he immediately did it. So, he's belligerent. Well, I'm not going to tolerate that on my show. If you want to be belligerent, get lost. Go away. Come back when you're not so belligerent.
I hope he comes back. I like sin. Yeah, sometimes he has some good points.
He starts
that's
off.
well.
He starts off. I'm sorry.
I was going to say what you said. He starts off well. You were going to say the same sentiment, so you might as well carry on. Go ahead, then.
Yeah. He starts off well. Then he shows his narcissistic behavior. I mean, it's nonsense. I still wanted to go back to believe your senses. These people who say they don't, like the ballers. I mean, if they go to a wild carnival ride, what they can do? Deny what their senses are telling them? It's
I'll tell you,
only in the category of creation and other things where it amounts to having to have to admit something you don't really want to believe in, like the creator or some other subject matter. It's not 100% running all the time for these people who say you can't believe your senses. Only when it applies to their bias about the creator or something else. But when it's to carnival rides and other things, they believe their senses. Trust me, they react to them.
Go ahead, whoever it was from Discord. Finally got some
I'll tell you,
order.
there has been, thank you, Nathan. There has been a very common trend going on where a lot of flat earthers are kind of detaching from everything and saying what is all there is, and let's not look at it anymore. And I'm interested in a little bit in this psychology of why is that starting to manifest in some people. Okay. Like sin.
Yeah,
I just
that
wanted to talk
happens
to
in.
10th Man.
Go ahead, Sinclair.
Oh, he's back again. Is this a nightmare?
Not if you don't
My
want me to be.
senses.
Not if you don't want me to be. I'll be gone.
Be gone. You've done this.
Yeah, because you don't want to talk to me. You don't want to talk about
Every
it.
time you come to this show, 90% of the time your behavior goes into this, and we want you gone. And 10% you've made it through. So if you're going to be that 10% sin cleanser, please stay. But if this is 90% narcissist sin cleanser, get lost.
Instead of complaining
just
about
let
me,
people
can you address
talk.
my argument for what it is, and then we can have a conversation back.
Why would I have an argument with someone?
You don't
like
want to because you want to complain about it, don't you?
You see, you just can't.
I'm willing to
stop
talk with
talking.
you, but you
Kick
don't
him
want to talk
out.
with me. That's
Kick
not
him
my
out.
problem.
No, you
Tired of 'em.
won't. You.
That's tough.
The guy's reacting to him in Discord. Yeah, that's what he wants. I just want to get to the point where Sinclair understands the complete nonsense he's spewed in regards to belief and logic.
I have an argument about logic. I want to talk with you. If you don't want to talk with me, you're going to do what 10th Man wants and say, get rid of this guy.
No, I've listened to
That's
what you had to say.
That's what you're going to do.
There you go. Verbal diarrhea over the top of my reply immediately. No, I've listened to you. I've listened to your nonsense. Yeah? Either you don't know what logic is or you're intentionally conflating what belief is, what your interpretation of things is, with logic. I don't know why you'd be doing that, but you are. Now, when it comes to a head, it seems you want to then pitch that over onto, well, this is what the ballers do. So you've got a little get out for this little do-si-do that you... You see that chuckle? Yes, I can pay attention to what you...
It was funny that you
Shut up!
Oh, my Lord.
I can pay attention to your dumb shit. Yeah, and that little chuckle is, whoa, I was really paying attention to what I was doing. Yes, I was paying attention to your stupid shit that you think you can pull off here, Sinclenser. No, I'm not daft. Yes, I can pay attention to what you're doing, and your little chuckle when I summarise what you're doing is very telling. Yeah? Just shut up. You're not clever. You're not being smart. Okay, Sinclenser? This isn't amusing to me. Yeah? And your little chuckle is just you masturbating, amusing yourself. Okay, wanker? Stop doing that. Yeah, I am paying attention to your stupid shit that you think you're being funny with. Okay? Don't chuckle at me. Just acknowledge that you're not getting away with your stupid nonsense. Now, if you want to input some decent parts to this discussion, you may. But amusing yourself is just masturbation. That's all you're doing.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. So don't chuckle along to yourself because you're amused with how you've managed to rile everybody up with stupid nonsense you obviously know isn't correct. Not
Nathan,
amusing.
I do think you're entertaining, though. Like, I like your show. It's an entertaining show.
Right. Yes, that's
So
how you
when I
aim,
asked
isn't
him,
it?
man,
So what are you, a
about
clown?
logic-
Are you here to amuse my audience, clown?
I'm here to have an intellectual discussion with the
clown?
panel members.
Are you a clown? That was my question.
I am the clowniest clown of all clowns.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Oh, I've got Adam. Oh, that's what I was waiting for. Perfect.
He's only here looking for attention. That's all he's doing. It's just purely attention. That's what he's doing.
Well,
Everything is
okay,
attention
so
seeking.
why don't you guys
It's
want to
like,
talk
all
to
the
me
attention
about
on
this?
me, cause as much problems as
If you were
possible, bring as much
capable
attention
intellectually
onto
of discussing
That's
this
all
with
you're
me,
doing.
then you would have no problem with
That's all
it.
you're doing. Bringing attention upon
You
yourself.
don't
That's
want
all
to
you're
talk with
doing.
me, so you're
It's
going to
not
find
about
every excuse
it's
not
not
to
about
talk
the
to me.
argument. It's not about logic, belief. It's not about anything.
Cowardly.
It's attention for
You are a
thinking.
coward.
I was
How am I
literally
doing?
rumpusing you,
Shut
calling you a
up,
coward.
dude.
Get lost.
Can you
Bye-bye.
shut up and
Well,
let
no,
other people
I'd like
talk,
him to tell me how I am. What is it? Where's this coming from?
No, he's not taking part in the conversation anymore. He can get lost. He's had his
fine,
chance. Now he's literally shouting, "You're a coward," through the top of you trying to talk to him, while simultaneously telling you that you don't want to talk to him. You don't want to take part in a conversation with him. I'll get lost. Bye-bye, Sinclenser.
Wow. Good morning.
Yeah. Hey, Chocolate. Yeah, listening into that for a few minutes there. He just kept on, everything he did was attention back to him, regardless of what he just did, everything to gaslight as much as possible and bring as much attention back to him. He has problems where he needs attention. Who else has those problems? You know?
I don't know.
Is he drunk again?
I'm probably just drunk.
Little kids.
Morning, everybody.
Hello.
Morning.
We will get to Adam as soon as
Mic
the live
check,
show
mic.
starts.
What up, Neil?
Okay, he's got me.
I feel stressed out after all that. Bloody hell.
That was the point.
Now that's Sinclender's MO. I can't stand when he comes in like that.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Arwin, Chocolate Saying, Neil, 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Yo, yo.
Hey, good morning.
So Adam is live from Birmingham Town Centre here in the UK at the Globe Light Tour. Can we get a hello from Adam? Hopefully we can get something. Maybe not. Well, there he is. I'm going to ask Adam a couple of things, see if he can hear me. Can you hear us, Adam? No, he can't. We'll come back to Adam later. Obviously, he's not there. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
It will always be in consideration.
Why formerly known as curve of the Earth? Why is it not curve of the Earth now? just wondering.
Oh, I got a cute
We will
shout out.
never forget Earth curve. We used to believe it.
Never forget.
Never
Yeah,
forget.
we need a yearly wake for the Earth curve.
Can I just read out this really
Few
sweet
minutes of
super
silence.
chat? Sorry, Arwin. Jardo says, "Can you say hi to Trisha? Your husband loves you." Oh, isn't that adorable? Thank you for the super chat as well, but oh. Hey Trisha, your husband loves you. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, not that we expect.
We expect. No, we don't expect to see Coriolis deflection. That's correct.
That's right. They should be, but they're siding with us on that one.
The anti-flat earthers do indeed side with us. I mean, they've got their own made-up nonsense to replace it that they claim is globe claims, but they're not.
That would be because the globe claims Coriolis and they continuously claim no Coriolis. Even though they still believe in Coriolis, for some reason they keep telling us how there's no Coriolis. Not really sure how that works, but okay.
They never expected to be forced to uphold the rules of their own model. Come on.
And one will go on Adam. Can you hear us, Adam? He's obviously just talking somebody through the questions, but we can't hear him.
On Coriolis, while we're waiting for Adam, haven't they divided that into different groupings? Like if it's a projectile, like a bullet or something, it behaves a different way as the supposed Earth turns underneath, but it takes on a whole new behavior if it's an airplane or something else. Want to go into that?
Well, the Coriolis effect is Coriolis effect. It's only observable if you're turning beneath things. The consequences of the claim that we have Coriolis effect on a turning Earth is that it would shorten flight times.
Right, but they denied that by saying Earth and atmosphere and plane move at lockstep, should I say, Velcroed, so to speak.
Well, that's where Arwin was saying that they agree with us in regards they don't agree with the globe Earth claim that there's Coriolis deflection. If you claim that Earth on your own, by yourself, alone, away from the Western world, not in line with the heliocentric claim of Coriolis effect, say that Earth and atmosphere spin together, then you're just as, you're as much a deviant away from the heliocentric claim as we are. We say Earth isn't turning, there's no Coriolis deflection. They say there's no deflection and my different Earth that's turning doesn't have any deflection like the globe that is in the heliocentric model claims, because the Earth and atmosphere that's in my singular on my own belief has the atmosphere moving along with it, in defiance of the globe claim that you've got Coriolis deflection to see, which would mean they'd very much be separate reference frames. But they don't believe that either.
Okay, but they are telling us the appearance of the stars moving is not because the stars are moving, but that Earth is turning, correct?
They say Earth's turning under the stars, but the anti-flat earthers don't say that. The anti-flat earthers say we're moving as one reference frame.
No, I know. I just want to go one step at a time. So their claim is the motion of the stars is because Earth is turning. That's their claim. That's the globe claim, correct?
That's the globe claim of Coriolis deflection. 15 degrees an hour of the Earth turning causes a deflection. That would be an apparent deviation of the stars. The stars aren't really moving, they just look like they're moving because you're on a turning roundabout known as Earth, according to them.
Okay. Now, then the argument takes on a new skin by saying Earth and atmosphere are moving together. Well, we experience, and I have, I'm sure you have, as you look up on certain days, clouds moving in all directions, west to east, south to north. We've seen
That's
that.
the remix. That's the remix. That's not the original cut. The remix is when the atmosphere and the Earth are moving lockstep, therefore giving you no Coriolis. That's the reasoning behind why they tell us that, right? Those are the remixes by the DJs that have to defend this crap.
Correct. But then they put to null and void their first argument that the stars are moving to our eyes because the Earth is moving. Then they kill that because if they do the remix, they've got air that's not attached to the ground moving in sequence with the ground if the Earth is turning. But when we look at it, we can see it go in all directions. I mean, there's parts on my property because of the wind in a normal, because we get Santa Anas as well as ocean to land air currents, but you can tell the majority of the wind is in one direction because all the trees within that pathway are leaning that direction. If you follow what I'm saying. So it's like, and then when you look up in the air, you see the clouds going in all directions. There's no way it's all tracking with the Earth turn west to east.
Yeah, I'm tracking with what you're saying, other than anything beyond a claim of Coriolis effect. That's Earth turning as a non-inertial reference frame with you upon it, watching things seem to drift because you're turning and they're not attached. That's Coriolis, that's the globe claim. Anything beyond that claim is heresy against the globe religion and claim that Earth turns beneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. So it doesn't matter beyond the point that they deny the claim. That was Arwen's original point. I'm going to stand by it. Arwen's absolutely right. Like us, they don't believe it either. Earth and atmosphere move together, so no Coriolis effect. You don't believe it either, then?
Precisely.
Well, what I don't understand about the planes is what difference does it make if the atmosphere is moving? When the plane is traveling through the atmosphere, why does it matter that the atmosphere is moving with the Earth? The plane is going in the opposite direction.
It matters because they're defying the claim the globe makes that Earth will turn beneath it and we'll observe a 15 degrees an hour deviation in that plane because we're turning beneath it. So the claim the globe makes is that we will observe, that's us standing upon an Earth that's turning, will observe Coriolis deflection in things not attached. So what difference does it make if the atmosphere is moving? Well, it makes a substantial difference because the globe claims we'll have Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour, which won't be happening if that's true. So they don't believe it either if you're answering this question, and that should be the first point we all go to. If you're answering this question, you're answering a globe heretic who doesn't believe in Coriolis drift either, about why Earth and atmosphere and how it moves together or doesn't will affect or not affect flight times. That's nothing to do with the globe's claim that we'll see drift as we turn beneath stuff because Earth's turning beneath stuff to cause Coriolis deflection of 15 degrees an hour. The moment they aren't agreeing with that, just point out that they don't believe it either then. Like we don't. That's it. Don't try and qualify why they say there'd be a slight deflection in the plane that the plane could easily account for. Like, sorry, so you're saying planes are accounting for or not accounting for Earth and atmosphere moving together or not moving together, depending on the circumstances. So you don't believe in Coriolis deflection either. That's all you've got to say. Heretics, all of them. None of them believe it. They all come up with excuses for why the globe's wrong. So none of them believe it. That's all that matters to me from this point forth. Who cares what their explanation is? All right, you on your own think I need to argue with you like you're a globe believer. I don't need to do that. I just ponder why you don't believe in the drift that we're supposed to observe in things not attached at 15 degrees an hour as we turn beneath them. That's what the globe claims. So you don't think we're turning beneath stuff to see it drift. This plane's going to correct for things in the atmosphere so we don't see Coriolis affecting it. Well, that's definitely not the globe's claim that's supposed to be proving it spins. Interesting that you don't believe it either.
Very telling.
Excellent point, Arwin. Can we move on? I'm asking Arwin, as it was his excellent point that got us here.
That's fine.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there. Whatever it is. Wherever it is.
Nah, it's over here.
I can't argue with that.
I know you can't, because it is over here.
It can be any distance you want if you just back calculate the angular size. Something that they can't have on a globe. Make it up.
Which is a back calculation of the radius from a flat Earth elevation angle of Polaris.
Well, no, technically no, because you can't have this on a globe. So you or me, as flat earthers, can just back calculate any distance or size we want to the sun. They can't, because can't have angular size on a globe. But we can do that if we want. Now, it doesn't mean that it'll be proven to be correct, but we can do that. You can come up with your figure, I can come up with my figure, and we can, both tell everyone about it. Doesn't mean any of it is right.
I don't think that's true. I don't think we can. So, for all the reasons you've previously given, although you're going to hopefully expand upon why I don't understand or disagree, Brian, if you're measuring the sun, right, I can only really make one true statement about it. I know where it's above at a given time, yeah? But in terms of where it is, I can measure it at various different perceived elevations from different locations. Well, that's a problem, because it's not at different heights, is it? If it's a thing at all that's physical, it can't physically be at different heights, for different people. That's impossible. Further to that, you can be at the same point, but you can be higher than the person who's measuring the sun below you, and both get the same angle. Again, if you ascribe the height to those two different measurements, they'd both give you the same height. But then if you incorporate the height above the ground level, you've got a different height. Well, that doesn't make sense either. So I would argue that while you might be just suggesting that people have the ability to verbalise a height after showing some seemingly plausible mathematics, yeah, people can do that, Brian. Like, people can walk out the side and cluck like a chicken if they want to. People can do that. Yes, they can. But it doesn't make any sensible conclusions in terms of where the sun actually is, or more specifically, what height it's at. I know we can't get that information, contrary to what you said about us being able to say that we have the information with a bit of maths.
No, what I said is we can back calculate and make it up. Because we can't. We don't know what the sun is or how it does what it does, where it actually is. It looks in a different place for you than for me. It's like, all we could do was take an average angular size of it, and then both me and Chocolate can make up a complete load of nonsense and tell everyone about it. That's all you can do. There's no way to know. That's my point. You can't. That's the best you can do. You have an angular size that's of something. You don't know what that thing is. That's it. That's all you have. So what you're saying is it's impossible. Yeah, it is. Or at least improbable.
But you can also go through a process of deriving an R value from a flat plane elevation angle measurement to a celestial body. Turn the ground that you've measured the angle, two straight lines, off a flat baseline, into a curved ground with a spherical R value. And then superimpose that spherical R value onto Venus, apply Kepler's third law to give you distances to all of these different lights in the sky. Now, once you've done that, you've then got distances to the lights in the sky. Would you agree? In the heliocentric model at that stage, you've got ascribable distances. But then when you move back to actually employing the use of the stars on the ground, which you've curved by way of a model that you've imposed upon the flat ground, you then can't use the distances that you ascribed anymore. Then you have to say that the stars are an infinite distance. You have to ascribe a further caveat to the distances to the stars because you've curved the ground that you've got a flat Earth angle from to make the Earth curved in the first place. So you then have to make two different distance assertions for the stars. One, if I'm measuring an impossible angle from a flat plane that's supposed to be a curved surface that I'm not actually utilising, then the stars are infinite on a tangent plane that meets with a dingleberry dangling Earth that isn't actually the ground I'm navigating. Then they're infinite. But if I'm on the ground that I assume is the protractor I measure the star with, and it's curving, then I can give them a distance based on an R value that's been ascribed to Earth's twin, Venus, by Christian Huygens, and then just use the maths of Kepler and give actual distances that I'll chuck away if I have to ever go back to the flat plane to measure any angles.
The thing about it is this: if you take a 45-degree angle to any star, let's say, or any celestial body right now, and I'm in an airplane 6 miles above you, and I'm directly above I'm at your zenith, directly at your zenith, and I take an angle to the same star at the exact same time, I'll get the exact same degree measurement. So that means that no matter what celestial body you pick, it's going to always be the same, regardless of your altitude or elevation. Once you're at the same zenith, once you're at the zenith of the, once you're basically on the same zenith line, it won't matter. So, I mean, all they did, it's nonsense. All they did is they back calculated a radius from flat Earth elevation angles, the Polaris, and then they took an angular size of the sun, and they then worked off of those two things. That's all they did, and they gave claims of different distances to different celestial bodies. But when it comes to celestial navigation, there is no distances that you can claim. Everything is the same. So they have to then claim that these things are infinite. Yet they're all different distances within their model.
Yeah, the web of lies just grows ever deeper, especially when you get to the thing that's actually derived your model in the first place. And in this case, it's the flat Earth elevation angle measurements that pose the problem and introduce two different distances that they have to ascribe for an impossible angle measurement from a curved baseline, aka their tangent plane and dingleberry. Any scientific evidence of gravity? Oh, we're still on the same. Yeah,
just 1 second. If you take an angular size to the sun, you can then create a solar system out of that. So yeah, they had to start off with the radius value, but once they took an average angular size to the sun, that's all they needed to create a solar system. Everything just went from there.
Well, that was what Kepler did. So, well, he gave everything its scale. You don't have actual distances, but you have all the scale, and like you say, you don't need much to get it. So yeah, you don't. It's only in fairly recent times that we've actually had ascribable distances. But you've got to make a leap of faith, right? You've got to say Venus is the same size as Earth, and then you can apply all the scaling values to an actual distance for each of them. But you've got to start somewhere, and that's where Venus being called Earth's twin comes in. You've got to have somebody say, "I know how big that is. That's the same size as Earth."
Yeah, but there's only two things that created the heliocentric model. That is the flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris, which gave them a radius, and the average angular size of the sun. Because once they had those two things, that's all they needed to back calculate everything else. That's my point.
Yeah, but not with distances, just with the scales. The scale values for all of it you can have in the heliocentric model with just those two things. You need your R value, obviously. But then where do superimposing the R value onto Venus only gives you ascribable distances then.
Yeah, but that's the whole point.
You don't need
have an angular size of the sun. Nobody can say. But my point is, they have an angular size to the sun, right? An average angular size for the sun, and they can then ascribe the sun to be any size they need it to be, via ascribing a size to Venus.
Or anything else.
You
just
mean?
need something to give you the scaling value. It doesn't have to be Venus, but yeah, you're right. You can give it any value you like. Absolutely anything. Just slide that scale up or down depending on what you use to scale it with. In this case, Venus, and Venus at the same size as Earth. That's how we've got 93 million mile sun. That's the reason.
You guys got a second?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had to come into a phone box because, frankly, there's a band playing next to us. It's a bit loud, so I'll. Yeah, it's wicked, man. Met with loads of old friends already. The banner's out. I've just been. If you've seen what I was doing there, I was just going through. If you go to Jason at the Disbury channel, you'll see me just basically doing it, giving him a quick rundown of the housekeeping questions and him with a little. Testing with a few of the responses he's had, sort of thing. So worth a little look at that. But do you want me to do anything, or just have a wander around?
But as we've got you now and you're on camera, first of all, hold your camera sideways so it's like a portrait.
Yeah.
Not portrait, rather.
Yeah. Let me spin this round. That better.
Much better. And then just give us a little tour of where you are and maybe tell us what you're doing.
Right, the band's back out again, so you'll be able to hear. So we're decent spot, Nathan. Opposite JD. There's a few folks around, so I'll just say this. This here is Tony Whitcomb from your chat.
Hey,
Say hi to the debates, guys. That's Barry. See, and that's Tony. Yeah, I'm just sending that's Tony for you. There's Sven, look. Got there. Jason, obviously one of the organisers. Oh, yeah, Odelia. Yeah. Who's that? Well, I know who he is. He's not here, though, is he? No. Yeah. A shout out to Chocolate from Barry there. So anyway, I'll show you the. Like I said, there's a variety of stuff. I don't want to pry. So a few bits and bobs. Here's the old school banner, the one that goes down Speaker's Corner. You'll have to shout if you want me to hear you, by the way, because I can't hear a bloody thing.
We hear you good, though. We're good. We hear you well.
Oh, look, what's down here? Henry Cavendish. Balls in a shed. I've not seen balls in a shed for a while.
So, for the audience's benefit,
and let's get to the main event then.
For the audience's benefit, Adam, you're currently right in the centre of Birmingham, which is the second biggest city here in this country, and he's basically got people passing him by and telling them about, not necessarily just about flat Earth debate, but various other subjects that are going to be discussed like they would be on Speaker's Corner, but in the Globe Live tour. So over the last week, Jason and pals have all been out at various different spots around the country, and that will continue. Now they're there with the flat Earth debate banner, which is awesome. But Adam will be, maybe he'll stay there a little bit in Birmingham. We'll see. I know he's going to maybe stay for a little while now. He's got that banner out there and disappear, but maybe he'll be talking to people and telling them a bit about flat Earth. I don't know. Are you going to stay a little bit, Adam?
No, because today's been a bit of a rush. Today was literally just to get the banner down, do this. So I'm going to be heading back. So I'll sit with you guys on the drive back, if that's all right. But so without it, you see, it's Tuesday before I'll be spending the day down in Nottingham. So it's I just couldn't have the banner not getting there because Royal Mail let us down. It's down at Jason's house down south. So needed it on the tour. So.
Is Jason in the middle of talking to somebody, or can he come in front of the camera and talk to us and tell us what he's been doing? And
he can do it. He'll have to kind of get his ear to the phone like this with me, but I'll see if he'll swap with, and I'll. No, he's a bit busy. He's evangelising, and I don't interrupt. When he's done, I'll come back if you wish, and I'll try and grab him.
Can you see if we can have a little bit of... Can we listen to him? We'll ask the person and him if they mind.
Okay, yeah, I'll sneak behind that and try.
No, just ask if they mind. Just ask if they mind.
If you can hear.
It's kind of like a kindred spirit relationship this morning. I might not agree with them, whatever they're saying, but a lot of people...
I'll tell you what I've got here. It's Trinity 4. How you doing, mate? We're live on Flat Earth Debate. So I just said, give your channel a shout out, Dave. It's Trinity.
The new Trinity 4, no space. Trinity and the number 4.
I also got a website called lovetruthsovereignty.com where I'm trying to do more because I lost my last channel due to COVID. I was giving too much medical information out, apparently, according to the World Health. Anyway, nice to see you guys, and I have to say, I have watched your show a couple of hours in the last month, and I've been enjoying your work, so I'm learning a few things from you guys.
I'll do this and then I'm got to catch up, bro. I've got to catch up. Yeah. Me and Dave spent too long cramped in that camper. I'm good friends, mate. So looking forward to spending a fuller day with him on Tuesday, actually. I'll just see if I can nobble Jason. Jason, would you like to see if you can speak to Nathan?
Oh,
I'll give you that. Well, swapsies. Swapsies. You have to get your ear to him, but hopefully you can hear him.
Right.
Hello, can you hear us, Jason? Can we see your smiling face? Can you put the camera on you?
Let me see if I can turn that around.
Or just physically turn it around.
Hang on. Let me find out. It's got too many buttons on here, Nathan. One sec.
Give it back to Adam. I was hoping he would just stand there with you.
His phone's a bit too fancy for me. How do we turn it round so it looks at me?
Adam.
At you right there.
Oh, this is a nightmare. Adam, can you hear me? Adam,
Adam,
can you hear me? Adam, don't do anything.
Back to that.
Oh, God.
And then we...
What a nightmare. Adam, can you hear me?
Yeah. Ah!
Adam.
It was there for a second.
Adam.
There we go.
Stop fiddling around with stuff. Just listen.
Let me go somewhere quiet.
Oh, okay. Now you can see and hear us. Okay.
I don't know if you can hear all that bloody racket there. So...
Right, I want you to just basically plug what you're doing. Tell us where you are right now, first of all, if you don't mind. Oh, introduce.
So
stop. Introduce
we are just
yourself.
outside the bull. With the famous bull statue just round the corner there. Let me show you. Just round there. We are outside there, JD Sports. But I can't give you the name. The name is New Street. We're on New Street, right at the end, near the bull. And I can just about hear you, Nathan.
Can you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
Hi, guys. So my name is Jason Disbury, Disbury, formerly known as Jason of the Disbury Family YouTube channel. I've been doing... I wanted to get out and just talk to people and see what they kind of think of Flat Earth. I don't have a educated background. I would like to think that I'm fairly intelligent to a degree, not up to your standards, guys. But
of course you are.
Don't
be self-deprecating. Just tell us where you've been so far. So you've been doing this all week so far. So tell us what you've been doing so far.
Yeah. So we started off at Speaker's Corner, coming round to. It was not an enjoyable experience. Too many people want to fight and bark all about religion, and so I never enjoy going to Speaker's Corner. But we wanted to start there and show them something different again. We went down to Plymouth from there. When we went down to Plymouth, we had a few altercations. Someone tried to trash the boards. But it was an enjoyable experience, really good, quite positive, some great interactions. And then I'm trying to get as close. I know you can see a little bit too, you can barely hear. We went off to Bath after then, and it was fantastic. Bath was amazing. Some incredibly enlightened people there, very open, very responsive. It was fantastic. Bath is really good. I think from Bath, was it Gloucester then? Gloucester was
Gloucester yesterday.
After Bath. Yeah, Gloucester. It was a little bit on the quiet side, but we still have one or two great conversations. We've changed our banners slightly just so that we can have a conversation about lots of different subjects, what's happening in the world around us today, right now, and kind of lead them into. We feel as though that when we've come out with Flat Earth, we've missed an opportunity on so many people that will just laugh, snigger, and run away. Whereas we felt as though that a lot of these are the same people that are awake to, what's happening with COVID and the big C, whatever. Sorry. And we felt so that there was an opportunity to try and bridge that gap of people that realise what is happening in the world today, and there's a gap of what was happening in the lies that we've been told from our history, our education, science. So if we could just bridge that gap between them. So hence that's why we've got the two lots of banners there at the moment now, and we're finding it being quite positive. Like a lot of people just can't bear to look at the flat Earth and that, and we've started on the top board. I don't know if you can see that over in the background. We've started at the board at the top, and we've slowly coaxed them and gently moved them to the flat Earth side of things. And our aim is literally just to be like a conduit to flat Earth, just to let them know that it is going on, and that there isn't a debate for us, and there isn't a real debate for you guys. You kind of know what's happening, but a lot of people still need baby walking, and I guess that's what we're here for, to just baby walk them into your shop, Nathan. That's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely perfect. Big shout out to you. I've just spammed the link to Jason of the Disbury channel, so that's gone out in the chat for the live stream audience. Thank you very much for telling us all about what you're doing. This is, I don't know if you've got a full introduction, but this is the Globe Lite tour, right?
Yes, it is, and we're in Birmingham today. It's Cambridge tomorrow. That's one to look out for. Cambridge, we get a lot. Well, last time we had a lot of boffins come out with their clipboards and that. So, really, Nathan, you need to get down there. Okay, that's all I can say.
What we'll do, Jason. If you can just once you've taken your ear away, so I'll just tell you what I want you to do. Yes. On camera, so you're holding it, looking at your nice, pretty face. Yep. Tell us where you're going to be for the rest of the Globe Lite tour. And then I'll thank you very much for taking your time to talk to us today. But if you can do that on camera, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. So we're here today. We're going to be here till about this is in Birmingham, Bullring, Birmingham. We're here till about 5-6 o'clock, and then we're heading to, I believe it's Cambridge tomorrow. And then we're going to take a day off, but we'll still be around the Cambridge area, but we're going to take a day off. I think that'll be Sunday then. And then we'll move off to, it's going to be Norwich after that. Norwich is an amazing place, so I'm looking forward to Norwich. And then we go off to, this is all off the top of my head, so hopefully I get that right. From Norwich, I believe it's, is it Hull? We'll be going off to Hull, and then we'll be going to Nottingham. I think it's then Leeds, and then off to Preston. And have I missed one? I feel like I've missed one, but yeah, Nottingham, Leeds, and Preston. Nottingham is Adam's hometown, as you know. So we'll be hopefully we should be seeing Adam there again in Nottingham.
Perfect. Well, keep up the great work. Thank you very much for talking to us. I really appreciate it. Hopefully the banner gets some attention. People will talk about flat Earth debate.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Nathan. I'll hand you back to Adam. Cheers, then.
Thank you, Jason.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, everybody.
Shout out, Jason.
So, just before Adam comes back to us, I'll just give a quick plug. So I've just put Jason's channel. So if you want to hear Jason chatting away with people about flat Earth on the streets of Birmingham today, right now, he's live also. So go and subscribe to his channel. Check him out. As I say, I've just spammed the link. I'll put a few more in there right now, so you can actually spam. So you can go and subscribe to him right away. Adam, thank you for doing that. I was hoping you'd just be my cameraman, but you ran away.
Sorry about that. I can continue to do so if you wish, but hopefully you've got a good feel for it now.
The only other thing, unless this is going to be a timing thing, it probably won't work out. But if there's someone else having a discussion and you can collar them and say, "Would you mind if we earwig? You'll be on, on my camera phone." And if you say camera phone, it's a lot less. It's a bit more cuddly. And if they say yes, hopefully we can earwig a conversation. If not immediately, if maybe you can hang around till that happens. If not, if you've got to run, then that's fine. Either way, whatever.
We are on a clock here, unfortunately, just for today. But that is what I will plan for Tuesday anyway. For Nottingham when I'll be there a while.
No, that's perfect. Like I say,
I'll get a mic set up and stuff, so we can have a bit of interaction, hopefully.
But man on the street camera footage, this has been superb, Adam. I mean, your beard cam has been brilliant. Face cheek cam from Jason's been awesome. It's been brilliant.
I'll keep it that way round instead of having to look at my face. Cool. I'll keep it running while I just have a few chats, say goodbyes, and then I'll see you guys in the after show.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing this, Adam. I know it's a lot of effort, sort of lurking around with a camera phone, and you feel like a bit of a twonk. So thank you. Adam Meakin, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, subscribe to Jason of the Disbury family. Like I say, he is streaming right now, and I have put links to his channel in the live stream chat. We're going to continue with housekeeping. So I know that's a bit abrupt, that interjection, but I knew it would be when it came, and I'm glad he's done it anyway, because it's always nice to see a bit of on-the-street footage where people doing a bit of flat earth activism. Not something I like doing, I've got to be honest. I actually dislike doing it. But I've got a lot of admiration for the people who go out there and press the flesh in the way that Jason is doing, and currently Adam is obviously doing as well. So absolutely epic. And yeah, hopefully we'll see some more of Adam when he's out in the streets of Nottingham doing the same thing, but on a bit more of a, you know, don't want to say permanent basis, but for a longer term than he's there today, because he's just dropping something off and then he's got to shoot pretty soon. So we may or may not hear one of the conversations that go on if somebody strolls up to the podium, so to speak, and starts debating with either Jason or Adam. We shall see how it goes, but we may come back to them later. In the meantime, any scientific evidence of gravity? That was too abrupt a segue, clearly, for my panel and Discord to get back into the gears of motion of housekeeping. After that, I'll try again. They've all had a few seconds. Go on.
What would be a good, just as what would have been a good idea would be live streaming through speakers this show to the street. That would have been a good idea.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, they're doing it though. Them being there is infinitely more effective than somebody listening to this, and I'm sure that that's happened. You know, I have people give me accounts of them playing it in their car and such like, and then people will hear it. You know, they've got somebody in the car with them, or they're at a stoplight and it's just blasting out the window, and somebody pricks their ears up and starts paying attention. So there are, you know, that does happen in the same way as people play various radio stations in market stalls and people just walk around and hear it. You know, similar sort of thing. The channel's not popular enough for that to be widespread enough to reach the whole of Birmingham. But even still, I just think Jason and Adam, at least temporarily for the moment, are definitely capable of doing a far better job than people just seeing us and then trying to have the technical wrangle-dangle that we just had with Adam, who's a friendly and on our side. You know, just, I don't know. Nah, sorry.
Well, I'm not saying to replace anybody or anything. I'm just saying if they had that there as well, people walking past would hear your last question, the housekeeping question you just asked. And then people go, hang on a second, and they listen in, they'd hear no, then they'd hear the reason for no. And then people go, hang on a minute. You know, that's my point. Maybe not.
No, I agree. In an ideal world, yes. Shout out to Santos Fibonacci. Okay. He says, Nathan and FED panel, a big thank you for your commitment to this worthy cause of fighting the globe deception, one show at a time. Godspeed to you all. Well, thank you very much indeed, Santos Fibonacci. Great name. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Yeah, hypothesis all day, but not anything viable. No.
Not hypothesis as in a, you know, Professor Clue kind of way. As in scientific prediction kind of way.
That's all they got. They just got like the story hypothesis, colloquial. They don't have anything that they can independently manipulate. Like a variable, that would be cool. But they don't have that. So without that,
they will never have
can't
that.
formulate a hypothesis. I don't know if you could say never.
No.
Maybe maybe you can get to one of these things in the sky. Who knows?
So, but what is the phenomenon within their model, right? Because all of their interpretations are all based on very specific presuppositions, and none of them are ever possible. So, as long as the hypothesis is going to be based upon that medium that is the shared story, they could never be viable, ever. The individuals separately from that medium of storytelling could make a viable hypothesis, but not within the medium.
Yeah, because the medium isn't real.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you've got a heliocentric spinning ball in a sky vacuum and your independent variable would have to be the turn of the Earth, you can't vary the turn of the Earth even in their medium that doesn't exist, and the medium doesn't exist. So it's so devoid of ever getting close to having an independent variable for any of the crap that they ever claim. And we all know they've got plenty of phenomena to assert, but it's just their phenomena comes with a just so story that incorporates a natural cause that they assert makes the effect happen. For instance, the apparent deviation of the stars. It's not that the stars are just moving, folks. No, they're just apparently drifting because Earth's turning beneath them in our just so story. It's like, well, there's your cause and effect relationship. How are you going to validate that? Stop the spin of the Earth that you assume is occurring in a sky vacuum in violation of natural law. Speaking of which, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Maybe, but we can never test it.
Nature abhors
Right,
a
here's
vacuum.
your chance for a bit of flat Earth discussion. So I'm going to come in. Just let me know if you can hear.
Yes, we can.
Space.
Sounds great.
So that cannot
Hey,
be
Jed.
his friend line. And that cannot be substantiated by anything that we've seen. One of the other things that they've never shown us or but seen is that they use harnesses to make guys look like they're floating. When Tim Peake did his spin in the air for Channel 4 in his interview, you could see the fullness of the harness, circus harness, in his trousers. And then when he was going over through the 360-degree spin, the veins started to come out in his neck. He slips a little bit and falls under sort of gravity for a nanosecond there. It's like, no. They're doing that in the States. They aren't really in outer space. We've never taken a man in a spacesuit into a vacuum chamber. You know, if you were diving or going to space, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to test it in the vacuum chamber and I'm going to see how it works in the vacuum, because in water, you're under a lot of bars of pressure at 30, 40 meters deep. But in space, it's pulling everything the other way. So you've got to make sure your suit works, right? And you're going to survive that. They've never put a man in a vacuum chamber to test the spacesuit. And the spacesuits from the 1960s program look like gumboots. They look like a motorbike helmet, slightly modified. You know, they could get away with it then with these sort of very thin suits. Now they have these much more puffy suits and they need all this extra stuff to make them work. We've never seen a man put his spacesuit on, go through the airlock and into space in one unbroken bit of footage. So now when it comes to what the ISS is, people who think they see it going across the sky, it's smaller than it's about the size of a 747, maybe a little bit bigger, right? You can barely see a 747 at 10 miles. Imagine 20 miles, 30 miles, 250 miles. There's no way you're seeing that. And for it to reflect all of this light, there's something going on up there, but it doesn't mean that they're actually got men flying up at 17,000 miles an hour, 250 miles per hour.
What's to say about the James Webb, the new telescope they have?
James Webb telescope?
Yeah, because they say this is 1,000 times powerful than Hubble.
That's incredible, isn't it? Because we were told with the Hubble that it was going to give us the most incredible, because it was out in space and so on. But we found out there's a 747 modified called Sophia, and that has in it a very, very powerful telescope, and they can take it to a very high altitude, get rid of all that, most of the atmosphere, open the side of it, there's a cupola, it opens up, and they can take, we think that this is what the original Hubble was. And now, one of the things for us is that we're tricked, or we're told to believe that what we see is many light years away. So what our cameras or our radioscopes are doing is they're picking up signals from billions of miles away. So when their Hubble or anything else can zoom in right on that, we think they're looking into the deepest of space. Whereas we think that our most powerful telescopes, if you were to take them on the ground or whatever, you would be able to resolve something at 50 miles, maybe 100 miles, something like that. And people often say, oh, it's the atmosphere, which I would give you, the atmosphere is more dense here. But we do not have the zoom technology to look at something billions of miles away. That's as far as we can tell. Like, I'll give you a good example of that. The P900 camera that we often use to it's got a super zoom, 80 times zoom or whatever. Well, you can zoom in and fill the whole of the viewfinder with the moon easily. You can actually take a crater and fill the crater with that. But if I took that on the ground and pointed at something 20 miles away, I would struggle to It's a viewfinder with the building or whatever it was at 20 miles. So we don't think that we're looking at things that are so far away. The light show, as I say to people, might be within 1,000 miles. It might be less than that, but I'm speculating, of course. So I think that light doesn't travel infinitely. We see lights depending on where we are relative to the equator. The further south we go, the less of the northern lights we see. And it's as simple as that. Lights don't travel infinitely far, as we're told. These are small, local, we believe, points of energy, maybe sonoluminescence in play, like a vibration that's causing like Mars to flicker in this repeating pattern that we see. That's what we think these might be, and we think they're close and local. And I also go as far as to say to people that I think they might be personal to you, that each of us has 7 key energy chakra points, and those 7 energy chakra points equate to the main 7 luminaries in the sky: the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. These are actually your guides, and they're energies that kind of come across and join up and at certain times. For example, the Sun.
Before I go into too much more detail there, I wouldn't yell like that. I'm going to head back, guys, because
Awesome.
I've got to go later. I'll meet back up and join
Good
me
little
in bed.
taster, a bit of street activism. Obviously,
There you go.
Very different flavour to what we normally have here, but awesome to see nonetheless. So thank you so much for doing that, Adam. Brilliant stuff. And I don't know if you're going to nip off now and leave us to it, presumably so. Thank you very much, though. I don't think.
Yeah, nice one, Adam.
Brilliant stuff.
Pleasure, guys. Pleasure.
Cool. So we're going to pick.
I understand there's a lot of good sentiment. I understand there's goodwill. But there's claims that have been made there that are wrong, and other claims that can't be supported.
Yeah, well, it's not our style. I know, Brian. Yeah, we wouldn't go into the launching into making the claims because there's no need to. People want to attach their claims to stuff that we can debunk and they can debunk. And he did a very admirable job in talking about the ISS and the various different aspects of fakery. I thought that was excellent. But, some people will attach their own claims to it and attach the word we to it. And maybe you find that objectionable. Fine. I'm not in the business of stopping people from having their own beliefs and expressing them to others, especially on a public forum, especially on the street, quite literally. Good for him. Now, if he was here and presented that, no, we wouldn't necessarily... We'd ask him to qualify his claims a bit more. But in terms of what he talked about with Tim Peake, you're like, yeah, the harness slip. We've all seen it, right? We've all seen Tim Peake slip in the harness. His veins popping. Yep. I saw one the other day from the Chinese where they had a cup of water. Did anybody see that?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Got a cup of water on the side. They're supposed to be in space and they got a cup of water. Just sat there.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, it's brilliant.
You got that? Post that.
It's one of those that I can't remember who to credit the person that I saw in their video edit of this was brilliant because they didn't highlight it enough, which was just right. Because I was like, well, it all looks normal, like the normal fake nonsense we get from space. What am I supposed to be looking at here? And then it dawned on me. There's a cup of water sat there. Nice level surface to it. It's not flown around. Brilliant.
Nathan, the channel that I saw it shared from was...
hold on. Go ahead, then.
What's the gal 000 that we talk about?
Rachie with 5
Rachie.
zeros.
She shared it on her channel, Chocolate. Go there. She shared it.
Okay, so hopefully get Rachie's
All right,
version.
cool.
Excellent. I like Rachie, so good. Hopefully you can subscribe to Rachie 00000 when the link goes into this, what we're now referring to. I think it was the Chinese that did this. But there's other versions. I'm sure there was the one with a guy with a Russian cosmonaut, and he's floating around, and he's got some bolts that he's repairing something with, and he drops them. And they go clunk. And it's the same with Tim Peake and his harness. He goes over, the harness isn't tight enough, he slips in the harness. So it goes clunk as it all adjusts, it goes over. And you're like, yeah, they're on high wire. They're not in a sky vacuum. Now, that would be my only critique, and I'd hate doing this. The guy's out there, he's pressing the flesh, he's doing the do, he's getting the sunburn. I don't want to be too critical. But my approach, so it's not critical, is just, I would have said, the sky's not a vacuum. We're breathing gas pressure right now. If it was, and that's where they claim the ISS is, we'd all be dead. None of us would be breathing. Gas fills vacuums. rapidly, we'd all be dead a long time ago. We'd have never reformed gas pressure. That would have been where I left it. But there we go. That's, it's horses for courses, isn't it? Different strokes for different folks.
Nathan, can I share something on? Hang on, did I post it yet? It has to do with cosmology from an older book. I just posted it, Master B.
Synthetic cosmology. Okay, yeah, sure.
So this was written in 1899, and conclusive evidence. But I love the beginning. So let's start with the next slide where the red line starts, because that's where it really starts. Briefly, modern astronomical teaching affirms that the world we live on is a globe, which rotates, revolves, and spins away in space at brain-reeling rates of speed, that the sun is 1.5 million times the size of Earth globe and nearly 100 million miles distant from it, that the moon is about 1/4 the size of Earth and it receives all its light from the sun and thus only a reflector and not a giver of light, that it attracts the body of the Earth and thus causes the tides, that the stars are worlds and suns, some of them equal in importance to our own sun himself and others vastly his superior, that these worlds inhabited by sentient beings are without numbers and occupy space boundless in extent and illimitable in duration, the whole of these interlaced bodies being subject to and supported by universal gravitation, the foundation and father of the whole fabric. Excuse me. I got to clear my throat, sorry. To fanciful minds and theoretical speculators, the so-called science of modern astronomy furnishes a field unsurpassed in any science for the unrestrained license of the imagination and the building up of complicated conjuration of absurdities, such as to overawe the simpleton and make him gape with wonder, to deceive even those who truly believe their assumptions to be facts, and to make men doubt divine revelation with little discrimination, as they were formerly called upon to believe. If the reader will carefully follow and weigh the evidence in the following chapters, he cannot fail to be delivered from the trailedom of popular credulity and led to seek the truth himself. Next slide. Current science declares that the Earth was once shot off from the sun, a piece of molten rock, which by universal attraction became larger by indraughts from without, as the late R.A. Proctor assures us. The molten mass took 350 million years to cool down for protoplasm to get a footing, which took millions of years by evolution and selection to produce Darwinian ape. Evolution and selection allied and combined with the survival of the fittest, again, took many millions of years to evolve primal man, many ages, again, elapsing before historical man was produced. These are 4 bodies, according to the late R.A. Proctor, which represent 4 stages of what may term astronomical progression as follows. The moon was once inhabited, but is now a chaotic mass. The Earth is inhabited. It was once like the planet Jupiter. Earlier still, it was like the sun and will become like the moon now is. Jupiter was once like the sun, is being prepared for inhabitants. When the inhabitants, it will be like the Earth. When its race as an inhabited world has been run, it will become like the moon. The sun will become like Jupiter, and another sun will take its place. Later, it will become like the Earth and will then be inhabited. Later still, it will become chaotic like the moon, and so on for countless ages, in fact, forever. Rounding it off. What a grand conception. Yea, rather, what a grand perversion of the reasoning powers, and what stultification of common sense. What an abuse of precious gifts in order to satisfy a fertile imagination and supply idle curiosity with something new in the domain of science. No one who reads the Bible but can see how these unfounded speculations are diametrically opposed to its plain teaching. The science of the 19th century and the science of the Bible are totally at variance. If one be true, the other is necessarily false. Which is it? Let the evidence here placed before the reader answer the question. Let honest-minded men and women who read these pages learn the truth for themselves by practical investigation into the facts herein set forth, which we challenge the whole scientific world to successfully dispute. We court no favor and fear no foe, scientific or otherwise. All we ask is careful attention and practical investigation. We have no fear as to the logical conclusion which shall be arrived at. And then the last page is the table of contents, as you can see, the subject. So I thought that was pretty profound for 1899.
Perfect. I think that's probably going to be an excellent way for me to round out this show. So I will say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. Shout out to Sensual Goat, who super chatted just as the live show was ending. Says, did Brian get the new camera I sent him? Question mark, open brackets. It's the weekend, fellas. Time to lock up your women. Close brackets. Thank you very, very much for the super chat indeed. Really appreciate the support, Sensual Goat. I'm sure we'll find out in the after show.
Yeah, we locking up women for the weekend. All right.
Brian's a bit of a ladies' man.
Well, new camera.
Well, that's a problem, Chocolate, because the new Supreme Court justice doesn't even know what a woman is. What are you going to lock up?
Yeah, right. You can't define women in 2022.
Hey, everybody. Hope
Hello.
you're all having a great day.
We are, Birdman. How are you?
Doing good. Sunny over here, Colorado.
That's good to know. Nice that we can shoot the breeze at the first part of the after show. Relaxes the tone.
Pretty sunny over here in Georgia.
Well, isn't this fascinating? Yeah, I'm now not so sure that you didn't relax the tone a little bit too much by talking about the weather. I've got to be honest. In the pre-show, it was complete chaos with establishing whether or not it would be better if we had complete chaos in the show, and then Sinclair decided to introduce them. Now we're talking about the weather. Just goes to show.
Sorry about that. What was he actually chatting about? That I missed that Sinclair's the first bit. What crap was he talking about?
I was just talking nonsense, saying that logic was the same as belief and interpretation. Nonsense, just causing trouble for no reason, just for his own amusement.
It was good to see the guys down at Birmingham on it, the stall and everything, and Adam, I enjoyed that. Good.
Yeah, it's also good to hear about stuff like Sophia, because again, he was right on the money, wasn't he?
Kind of took me back to like the old school flat earth conversations I used to have years ago. You know, like I understand what you meant when you said that there's some things you claim that, you know, over here we'd have to question a little bit, but you got to kind of let that go when it's like some dude in the street talking to some other people, you know. It's like, the conversation's happening, which is the most important part, I think.
I understand the sentiment is good. I understand that the intention is good. But the arguments were wrong. There was claims made that were wrong, and there was claims made that couldn't be supported. So my phone went dead. I'm glad it did, because I was a bit of a loser. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. We're here every day. We're here every day. I can't stand that people do not keep up to date with the flat earth debate.
Let's not be like that, right? That guy specifically said he'd watched the show a couple of hours, right? And he appreciated it and had learned some new stuff. Well, I don't want to alienate my audience by saying to that very specific guy, you need to do better. It's like, who the hell are you? Now, but with the same breath, Brian, I'll say, yeah, he could have offered up better arguments, but this is a small show. Doesn't mean we reach every single flat earther that's out there. It would be great if I was the size of some of the bigger flat earthers, Mark Sargent, Jeren, Eric DeBay, whoever, and then these arguments would be the prevalent arguments. But they're not. But give it time, just keep working. The worst thing you can do is alienate the audience by saying, you've done badly. The question is, this is my point, Brian, for you specifically, where'd you draw the line? So when I first arrived, people had just stumbled on the subject same as I had, and I'd got a bit of conspiratorial stuff behind me, psychopathy and subliminal messaging, and now I'm onto flat earth, and that was obviously the path I was on. But then I came across people talking about Mandela effect. Excuse me. And what else are they talking about? People inhabiting droney bodies. I've forgotten what it was like. Body swapping, or I've forgotten what the crap was. Cloning, that was it. The cloning centres, that was the one. And at first,
Man in Hollywood, or
that was that was the third one. That was fading out just as I arrived, which was the reptilian thing. That was also another thing that I was like, okay, well, I've never come across this stuff. I don't want to just go nuts at them. That's a bit similar to anti-flat earthism, right? I was like, I'll have a look at it. So I did. Found all the flaws. Offered it up to a few of them. They didn't like it. And I was immediately tarnished with this bad reputation of, he's not just a go along to get along kind of guy. He won't just, listen to our total shite about how Britney Spears has been cloned, or whoever it was at the time, some popular tall blonde chick in the pop charts, and they're like saying that she's been cloned, and it's like, oh God, alongside Mandela, right? Well, for me, that was where I drew the line, right? So for the next man who's me in the future going, you're just alienating your audience. It's like, well, you've got to draw a line somewhere, and I think that was what Brian's saying. It's like, well, for him, this is more irritating than he can bear, right? Well, fair enough. You get to say that here, and I'm not going to stop you. This is an open bar.
Well, at least now we got all mountains are molten buildings, so it's getting more reasonable as time passes.
Yeah, at least they had some photographs to go along with it. I think. I know you're going, well, yeah, right. No, Arwin's right, because Arwin knows how low the standards were, and how those low standards now, even though they're still terrible, seem actually all right by comparison to 2015, right? But Arwin, I think that's your point. Am I right? I'm reading between the lines a lot there.
Well, that's a complicated thing, because at one side, the amount of conspiracy addiction is making people more willing to suspend their disbelief about stupid things. So they're willing to dig deeper. But at the same time, back in 2015, everything was like completely fresh and new. And there were just people and it felt like controlled opposition, just in between flat earth, screaming the craziest things they could imagine, just to make everybody be put off by it. That's what it felt like back then.
Yeah, and the people.
But now the entire scene has changed. So
absolutely, the people who are sort of metaphorically, although it's not flat Earth, related or comparable to us now, were the people who were the 9/11 truthers and the school shootings truthers, and they were furious that flat Earth arrived, because there's a whole load of crazy dreadlocked hippies that are strolling around talking about whatever. I don't know. I'm alienate my audience no matter what I say in the next breath, aren't I?
We still have them. It's known as Santos.
You know what I'm getting at. I'm just saying that there was a lot of crazy nonsense, and the people who've gone out there and really dug into the deceptions of this world and how they're perpetrated, media deceptions mostly, were pissed off that you've got a load of crazy barking idiots talking about flat Earth with very little to actually back it. Now, there were those amongst us that were sort of finding our way through the weeds, knowing that no, this is actually real. But my God, there's a lot of crap to feast upon. Right, it's the feast of nonsense, isn't it? I say weeding through the weeds. You're at the feast of nonsense, walking around going, well, there's a lot of quite happy people here. But there also seems to be people sat in the bushes pointing lasers at me. They seem to have guns in their hands. What's going on here? This is a crazy feast. Why is all the food free?
Well, I think that there might be a linear correlation between the level with which the government propaganda and mega corporation propaganda is getting worse and how much people are willing to indulge into crazier and crazier conspiracy
Right,
theories.
Owen knows exactly where I was going with this. Right, so you had the people who were in the, let's call them truthers, who are pre-flat Earth and, you know, well into the research and had done their due diligence and all the rest of it, who were like, the flat Earth's a CIA co-op shill government-based operation to just, what was Tim Osmond's famous line? To muddy the waters of 9/11 truth, right? That's what their sentiment was. That was the sort of pinnacle of their
It's a
sentiment.
psyop. That's what I was told.
Well, looking back on it,
they're trying to cover up the moon base.
Oh yeah, that was another one. That was a little bit later. That was a bit Joe Rogan. But what I'm driving at here is, now that you look back on it, do you not think that they were more right than wrong? When we talk about the Feast of Nonsense, we're talking about that, which they got pissed about. So in many ways, looking back on it, I kind of look back on the disdain and the claims of CIA shillery, and you go, the way this path had been cobbled prior to me getting here does seem to be, you know, there's a certain amount of truth in what they were pissed off about. You know, they had a fair right to be pissed off with us. And I say us because I'm part of the problem back then, like everyone else here.
Well, they were anticipating more government-made machinations, but then Flat Earth popped up, right? And that wasn't actually a machination. We were trying to fight our way through. We got a lot of machinations, but then the other groups decided, yeah, but we like all conspiracy theories except for Flat Earth, so we're going to say that's the government of.
Maybe.
So they
Maybe
just,
I don't know about their motivation, but what I know is
I
their
got told
sentiment.
talking about flat Earth would be a distraction from the Federal Reserve and chemtrails and all this. The first person that I told about flat Earth, who was the biggest conspiracy theorist that I knew, that I was just like, well, all the things that this guy doesn't believe, oh, he'll be right on this. Wrong. It was literally the opposite. He was just like, whoa, flat Earth. Well, you crazy, bro. I'm like, I'm crazy with all the shit that you got on your Facebook and all this, and I'm the crazy one? Okay.
His quota was already filled. His quota was already full. He couldn't put an entire flat Earth in there as well.
Not at all.
Yo, Chocolate, I got a dude named Raheem that is exactly the same. And it's super annoying. And I hit him with messages every once in a while when he's like, it's talking about government this, it's talking about that. And I'm like, yeah, you know what makes all this make sense? They lie. You know how big lies they are? Remember I told you the earth was flat? Yeah. Not ready yet? Okay. All right. Have fun with the 5G and all that.
5G.
Right?
I love it. All the nonsense that we have to wade through. And sometimes it pisses me off because they'll lend credence to their own nonsense by saying, what are you, a flat earther? If you don't believe my crazy conspiracy. You're like, what? How dare you? I mean, then I look back on the last few years at the flat earth nonsense and the feast of nonsense and go, actually, yeah, fucking have it. yeah. Whatever. Yeah, flat Earth has got a lot to answer for. So fair enough.
Yeah, but my chakras are aligning with the planets.
Flat Earth God.
We're just as bad as anyone else.
What?
I don't care. Right? That is some horseman.
Right, that triggered you, huh?
So we'll get to see the photos of your chakras aligning.
You're what, Brian?
But that's what's messed up about it, right? Let me stop moving. I know the window and this mic is crazy. But like everyone who could have their own faith and their own belief is subsetted in heliocentrism. Yeah, first of all, it's weird as hell that the planets line up like that. I saw it. It's weird. It's even weirder to think that you're a part of that alignment when you're looking at it in the sky. You know, so
Oh, I can't claim that they don't align with the planets. I can't claim that the chakras that I have or don't have chakras, or they do or don't align with the planets, whatever planets are. I'm just
that's what I'm
stating
saying.
I can't make
Don't
that
use
claim.
your chakras to defend it. Like your chakras don't got nothing to do with heliocentrism and the alignment.
I think you missed what was said earlier. I think, Eli.
No,
By
I agree
someone.
with Eli. Your chakras have got nothing to do with this.
It was always, every time there's a celestial conjunction of any sort, I was always my entire life anticipating, oh, so that means that like the gravitational fields of all the planets are lining up, so there's going to be like a pillar of an unusual activity that could lead to earthquakes. So where's the earthquakes?
I kind of took it as a 70s disco band guide, the Shaka Khan. Remember that group?
Stupid.
I do.
There was a group.
My parents listened to them.
Chakra Khan.
Yeah, they had a good beat, Chaka.
Kosal.
No, Shaka Khan.
Hold on, guys. Kosal, did you want to add something? Or did you just want to cause LDA chaos?
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't want to add anything.
You have been.
Yeah, I just noticed. Sorry about that.
What does a zip tie sound with your mic close to it?
Just washing his washerboard. That was all.
No, I was zipping my bag. Getting ready to head out.
So yeah, I mean, I just hope that the arguments do progress. You know, it's all well and good as saying that we don't necessarily buy into the idea of chakras or whatever it is that some people will ascribe to, and we don't necessarily. However, the bit that I would focus on would be like hyper specific in terms of the flat Earth arguments that the guy put forward. It's like, man, you've got some great information to back it up with, but keep that in your arsenal. Keep that close to your chest if anybody asks you, so you can use it reactively. You know that you're knowledgeable on Sophia and the ISS and all that stuff. But also know that you end the argument in a breath when you tell them that gas expands into a vacuum. Really quick. You know, leave him with something to ponder. In other words, expand the guy's armory. Give him a sharper knife to wield, rather than saying, you got to back that. Yeah, it's like, no. The guy's going to be much more effective if you just sharpen his knife a bit and send him on his way. That's my attitude. I'm glad you all agree. I mean, I can see by the enthusiasm level.
I do agree. No, I wanted to say, like, it's better to give them, like, instructions on which direction to dream at, right? So always asking questions, presenting it like asking questions. It's almost like TV conspiracy theorist type. Like, you present it as a question. Wouldn't you think about this and that? Have you ever considered this? And that way, you leave it to the person's curiosity to pull them forth, instead of suddenly making it into a polarized challenge in which they can very much just choose to resist and step away.
I just point out one thing. There was two people in that discussion. There was a flat earther and there was a normie globe believer. Right? The Asian guy was a normie globe believer. And we haven't even discussed him once. All of our critique has been of the flat earther. What an outrage.
I think what would be good on them stalls is like a gravity test section where take some helium balloons down with you and maybe a couple of stones and get onto the conversation of gravity, because everyone just drops a stone, don't they? And then as they do that, just say, give them the helium balloon and say, let go of that, and then it opens up that conversation then of gas go down, go boom boom.
That's been taken the piss out of by The Simpsons. I've said this a few times. I put it in a recent video because someone asked me to. Like, what clip are you talking about when Cletus is at a fair? He's behind a stall selling helium balloons. And on the side it says, "Rocks what float." And then he hugs Homer, for whatever reason in the plot, he embraces him like a brother, and says, "You're my favourite person on God's flat earth." While selling rocks what float. Or balls what float. I forgot what he put on his sign, but you know what I mean. The very notion.
Yeah, but I think just for a normie down there, just something like that, it'll just get them thinking a little bit more. It'll open up that conversation a bit more, rather than saying, well, you know, not everything goes down, and talking about density, relative density. Give them an example of what we mean, and then they can have a visual.
I don't know how effective that is as a tool either, unless you expand into the discussion. Which is to say, if I just, on the street, I go, "Gravity's not real," and they go, "How do you know?" I go, "Well, what would you give me as an example of gravity? Prove it." And they drop a rock. And then I hand them a balloon with helium in it, and they go, "Do the same with that." And they go, "Oh, wow, you're amazing." Then they go away. While they're walking away, they take out their smartphone and Google, "Why does a helium balloon go up?" And the first result in Google search says, "Because the gas around the balloon is being forced down by gravity." And they go, "Stupid idiot. Didn't he realise that the gas around the balloon was falling down, go boom boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls poured into a fish tank?" Because that's what Google told me after a quick cursory search. So without an expansion onto the subject, no pun intended, there's not going to be any clarity brought after a cursory Google search. Well, unless you do say, well, you know, the assertion is that the balloon goes up because the gas comes down around it. But gas doesn't fall down. Gas expands in all directions and would expand into a vacuum if the sky was one. It isn't. The sky's not a vacuum. You've been lied to. Now on your way. See how you get on with a Google search about gas not expanding into vacuums.
What's funny about that one, though, is that when I've told people that that's the response that I've gotten when asked why, you know, helium balloon goes up, well, because the rest of the gas is being pulled down. You know, before the Google search, I'm looked at like I'm crazy, like I'm making that up. And it's like, oh, why would they say that? Right? It's like they don't believe that that's the response. Half the things I tell people that Globers have told us, they look at me like I'm crazy because they don't believe that the people that are defending this shit actually say a lot of the things that they say. I've had one coworker tell me, "I think that you guys might actually have fake Globers come on and then say dumb shit to make Globers look stupid."
Okay, yeah, that makes
sense. And I'm like, you know, that's so
that makes
funny.
sense. There's an order to this stuff, Chocolate. So do you remember the other day when I was talking about the scientist, claimed to be scientist, in Hollow Man, and he's complaining about the other professor being able to go from A to D without B and C? Most normal people on that cobbled path won't go from, "Why does the helium balloon go up?" then have the logical next step in the discussion. If there's a back and forth to be taken place, it must take place in this order. Well, because gravity doesn't exist, it's fake. Then the Google search, "Why does the balloon go up?" because then their cognition is on that road for the gas around it comes down. Oh, right, they need that moment first. Now, if they haven't taken that road and you go from A straight to D, well, why is the helium balloon going up? Well, according to your globe faith, the gas around is poured down. And they go, "What? That don't make no sense." Well, no, it would make sense if you had come to the "why does that happen" question after being challenged about gravity by a flat earther. Then that Google search would make a lot more sense, and you'd accept it willingly, because you'd come to it of your own volition and you'd feel really smart. Oh, because the gas around forms homogeneous layers. We've got all these different layers, haven't we? Oh, yeah, the troposphere. Oh, yeah. All these layers, yeah.
Right. So it makes more sense if you come up with it yourself as opposed to hearing it secondhand from somebody else, because I'm looked at like I'm bananas.
It's
Like
'cause
I'm
it's how
making
you
it up.
say it.
Even though people know I don't make shit up when I speak. Right? Even they know that my coworkers know, even if I'm exaggerating, I'm not exaggerating that much. Right? Because they know anything I'm speaking about, I could pull up, I could reference, I could cite. There's none that I just, flippantly say. But when I say certain things, they're like,
God damn it.
you can't be freaking serious. And I'm like, I am. It's so many things that they just don't believe the Globers that debate us, actually say in real life. It's crazy. Go ahead, Eli.
I wanted to say something, if I may.
No, fam.
Okay.
Can't you feel my burning desire?
I put me in the queue. I have something to say as well.
Fuck. That's the kind of shit that I could. Wait, what time? Oh, yeah, it's the after show. You let an S word slip here and there. But that's the kind of stuff that I could never convey that I wish you would.
I don't know. If somebody asks me, or if a normie's coming up to me and
I get a little back and forth with chocolate for you. So that's because this is why you feel like you get left out and don't really have a lot of time to. Like, I'm trying to start a dialogue, a little kind of tiny
Oh, okay.
dialogue.
Yeah,
and then
don't be a martyr. You
So
gotta
I'm
laugh.
just saying that to say, Arwen, if you chose better spots, you would have a back and forth dialogue versus trying to get a point in and then having it brushed aside.
Okay.
Alrighty then. Go
My
ahead.
point was very relevant to the entire conversation, though. But...
What would solve a lot of problems would be if my good friends Eli and Chocolate went on to the Killer Priest podcast.
Please. Like,
yeah, that'd be good as I've subscribed now. Yeah.
Okay, so I
say
guess
something like that. I can't pick up the the Edwin Hubble clown said this and the Michio Kaku clown said that and my coworkers did this and I was like, idiot, that. Like, I can't do that. Like, you're amazing, fam.
Yeah, I mean, all the blanks where Eli runs into problems, that's where you shine, Chocolate. I mean, you couldn't find a better duo.
You guys, man.
Actually, chocolate goes well. Chocolate goes well with just about anything.
Yes, sir.
It was a good show, that, Eli. It's one decade. I did watch that Killer Priest one, so I think you did a really good job, mate.
You man, I appreciate it.
I don't know if you know that Jeff. He's a good friend of mine as well. Woke 88. He's got a radio station called Ice Wall Radio, and I actually send him pre-made house. I realised he was on that show as well, so just to let you know, I'm a good friend with him as well. So well done. It was really good.
Started a channel, and so he's gonna have me on. And yeah, I'm just looking to go I'm just looking to talk to more people. The more people we talk to, the more people will question, and the more it'll matter somewhere to someone, to something, maybe. You know what I mean? I'm not doing anything else. So.
Well, I won't promise anything, but I won't rule it out either. So there you go.
And you don't even have to show yourself. So,
Chocolate, have your people call his people. Have it done. Come on.
Yeah. Nah, but to be honest, you don't need me, man. You're 10 times more articulate than I am. So, and like one deck said, you did a fucking fantastic job on that show. So, You don't need me. I'm the old busted.
When you're not my
man.
wingman, someone else is, and that's cool and all, But
Yeah. Listen to the people that tried to be his wingman.
no, they were cool. They're cool. It's just chocolate. Oh.
Anyway, yeah. So people tend to not believe the type of shit that we're told here. Like I said, I've been, the show's been damn near accused of actually bringing on fake Globers to just make Globers sound stupid. I'm like, nah, that's the Globers just sounding stupid on their own. That's not us. That's them. They do a good enough job without us.
Is that mainly the anti-flat earthers who are at odds with the Globers, or the Globers as well?
Well, it's mainly the anti-flat earthers, right? Because
Yeah.
the Globers just all agree with each other.
Right.
It's the anti-flat earthers that, they have problems with their own models. So they'll tell us things like, are you and your reference frames ruined? It's like, no, not ours.
Well, the anti-flat, as Nathan puts it very nicely, the anti-flat earthers are or were Globers at one time, but they ran into FED and got eyes like deer in the headlights and say, how do we overcome all these housekeeping questions? Well, we can't overcome them and remain Globers. So let's be anti-flat earthers and go troll that FED. So they morphed.
I don't even think it was that complicated. I think at some point, let's say if we take Coriolis, at one point they were arguing. I mean, obviously the globe claims there's Coriolis, right? So these silly flat earthers just have to be made to understand that there's Coriolis. Then when you actually try to debate it, it's like, damn, there is no Coriolis. So now I gotta give up excuses as to why there's no Coriolis, as opposed to arguing that there is. That should be simple enough. How's that working out, guys?
Well, that's Kosho bringing in a citation that proves our point, but while he read it, it thought it proved his.
The effect that you're going to observe will be no effect. Proven.
I mean, that checks out.
That's it. That's the basis of the claim, isn't it? The effect is no effect. There you go. How come you don't believe?
Yeah.
You're not in the right reference point. That's fine.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're not in the right reference point.
Yeah. Why do we feel movement? Believe.
Why would you expect to? That's why, because you told us we're moving. This is the silliness of it. You tell us, you make fun of us because we don't believe we're moving. Then we ask you why, or how are we moving? Please prove somehow or another that we're moving. Oh, why would you expect that we're moving? Why would you expect to feel it? Because you told us we're moving? Maybe. So I should just take me not moving and you thinking you're moving as the same thing. No.
Well, Chocolate, it's a bit more complex because you're moving in the real world. You cover some ground. You move furniture from one house to another, say 10 miles apart. You moved over some ground. But moving in the globe belief is not really moving.
Yeah, it's a stationary affair in the globe belief. Moving.
Oh,
moving
stationary moving.
Yeah.
It's stationary movement. That's fantastic. It's like, nah, guys, that's crazy. Oh.
As Armin says, the conservation of stationary momentum.
Word.
Like, what else do we observe that does what the stars, sun, and moon do? What else do we observe that does that? Does these things? Nothing. So the only evidence that they have, well, not evidence, the only thing that they could use as a claim that we're rotating would be the star, sun, and moon. But then there's nothing else outside of them to support that claim. Literally nothing. So, they have to prove we're not stationary, not that we have to prove that we are.
Well, there was no anticipated correction from your flight from Europe to Lagos, Nigeria. So obviously we're moving, but we don't have to correct for the movement because we got accept the fact that you can just fly north to south and get there, but we're moving.
Well, yeah, I mean, George Nechuk would be one of our best mathematicians, and he's like one of our top high priests of the Globers, and he disproved his own claim with the flights from London Heathrow to Lagos International. Completely disproved it. There was supposed to be a drift that he was supposed to be able to account for, and there was nothing.
Didn't Wolfie bring up drift and corrections for it, but that's wind that the pilots correct for, is wind direction that can change throughout the whole flight.
Yeah,
but Wolfie's not.
You can't correct for an illusion. That's all I was going to say.
Say it again.
Yeah, but Wolfie, Nathan said you can't correct for an illusion.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but Wolfie's not claiming that he's correcting for anything. He's making a boy claim that the avionics of the plane is correcting for, so he doesn't have to. It's nonsense. There's
okay, but by saying so, he's saying that there is no deflection to observe in aeroplanes because they're correcting for an 800-mile-an-hour delta when travelling from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles. Yeah, you're not going to account for an 800-mile-an-hour delta, are you?
No, because they're not even talking about someone's
Chocolate,
off mute.
Can you mute?
Oh, sure, sorry.
But they're not even talking about east to west. They straight out claim that there is no observable effect east to west. Their claim is north to south, south to north only.
No. I'll
claim.
try once more. You're not picking up what I'm putting down. They are defying the globe's claim of drift at 15 degrees an hour, regardless of where you stand on Earth. It's claimed to cause Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour. So when you say, they say, on their own, alone, away from the Western world belief that there's Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour observable from the ground, they're describing how planes correct for whatever they think they're correcting for. Yeah, but that isn't in line with the globe's claim that we'll just be on the ground observing 15 degrees an hour of stuff drifting. So they don't believe that either. And I've gone on to explain other stuff that isn't related to the Coriolis deflection the globe claims. So they don't believe it either then. In this case, Wolfie doesn't believe Coriolis deflection. He's got a whole separate story, not in line with the globe's claim of Coriolis deflection. Right, Brian?
Well, the aerospaces in general have that same claim that Wolfie has. That's aerospace's claim. That's their official claim. That they have avionics that account for any drift north to south or south to north. They don't account for anything
what?
east
When
to
they
west.
say drift, do they mean their gyros in incorrect positioning because it's drifting in its inaccuracies because it's mechanical? Or are they calling the drift that they claim they experience in a fibre optic gyro? Or are they talking about, because if they're not, it's benign, the globe's claim of Coriolis drift observable from the ground? Because if they're not talking about the globe's claim of Coriolis observable from the ground, then it's got sod all to do with the globe's claim.
Well, they're talking about a change in latitude, north, south, south, north. So a change in rim velocity and basically a change in a linear rate for that rim velocity or whatever.
What rim velocity?
Which makes no sense.
What
which
rim velocity?
You see, this is the thing. They have a claim that there's a change from one latitude to the other, north to south, south to north, that there's a change in the rate of movement. And that is that wherever they take off from, they maintain that latitude's rim velocity or whatever.
Oh, I see. No, I get it now.
Another one,
Yeah. No, I get it. They're new. This is our version of what we say is proving Earth spins, when the globe claims there's Coriolis effect to observe. So it's a new. This is us thinking we're in line with a globe claim. No, you're not. The globe just claims there's Coriolis drift, doesn't it? Yes, it does, before anybody thinks that's not rhetorical.
No, what you're saying is correct, Nathan. If we were on a rotating reference frame, then something flying in a straight line over the top of us would appear to have take an apparent curved path.
Yeah, that's what the globe claims will happen to prove it's spinning.
Well, that's the Coriolis effect, but they have...
Yeah.
They have
globe claims Coriolis effect. They're claiming something that isn't that, and trying to say that it's something to do with proving Earth spins, or not proving that we don't have deflection. No, just the globe claims Coriolis deflection, doesn't it? And you're talking about something that isn't that.
Yeah, that's it. The globe claims that there's a Coriolis effect, but then they go on to detail something that isn't the Coriolis effect.
Yeah. Or if you're stupid like Wolfie, claim that you account for drift in your plane. Well, in context with a turning Earth and drift being Coriolis effect, no, you're not. It's an illusion observed from the ground. What's that? You weren't talking about that. So you don't believe in Coriolis deflection as claimed by the globe either then, do you? Is my response. If they say, oh, well, I wasn't talking about Coriolis deflection as claimed by the globe, why not? Aren't you a globe believer? You're talking about something other than 15 degrees an hour observable from a turning Earth, as the globe claims. Why would you want to talk about anything other than that? Why wouldn't you just want to show it me? Repeatedly. Rub my face in it. As opposed to make up some other nonsense that's nothing to do with Coriolis effect. And somehow delude yourselves that you're globe believers, proving we spin. You're not. The globe claims Coriolis effect. You just need to show us that. Because that's what it claims. Not an explanation for why it don't happen. Not your version of why you don't have drift. Not your version of why you say rim velocities vary and you account for them in aircraft. No. The globe claims Coriolis effect. You just need to show us that. Because that's what's claimed to happen.
Yeah, agree. Now, the word drift in a different context, okay, not the one you guys just talked about. I've watched the videos on this. I'm sure Brian has, because he's understands avionics much better than I do. But the pilot sets a course, and it's linear course from here to there, straight line. And then an hour into the flight, the winds are hitting them from one direction, moving him off course. So he makes an adjustment to a new heading to counteract the winds. Then all of a sudden there is no wind. So he's got to make sure he's back on this original course. And then before he lands, there's another drift caused by more winds coming from the other direction. So it's constantly adjusting to his course line by air, atmo, moving in different directions, throwing them off. But then a week later, he does the same flight. There's absolutely no wind, and it keeps the same course. There's no adjustments. So I brought that up because it depends how you reference drift to. If it's on Earth-based Coriolis, that's a whole different drift. If it's winds in the air and the plane encounters them, you have to make corrections by setting a new heading. But then what does that say about atmosphere and Earth as one?
Well, that's not even the claim. So they're already off from the get-go.
Exactly, Chocolate. At that point, you say, so you don't believe in the claim of Coriolis deflection then? No, neither do we. Interesting that you've got a new version that's not in line with the Western world. That's fascinating. Meanwhile, globe claims we've got Coriolis deflect. But we both don't believe in it, do we? You can explain away how it's not occurring all you like.
Just on Ten's point about the wind, that's a good point, because they could show you a drift due to wind without telling it's wind in a flight. But that if they took that same flight 10 times over, that drift may occur on some flights and may not occur on others. And it will be different every time because the winds are never the same, basically. Or if there's any time where it's the same, it's only just a coincidence. So it's nothing to do with Earth rotation, it's just the winds. But the problem with that, the other problem with that, this is why I always choose commercial airliners. I always say commercial airliners flying at cruising altitude because they fly at a point in the sky where there is very little weather and very little winds to deal with because they're up so high. They're up out of the weather and out of all the pressures and changes of temperature that cause these things. So that's why I always choose commercial airliners at cruising altitude because smaller planes may fly a bit lower and may encounter more of that kind of stuff because they can't go up, maybe can't go up as high or whatever. But the bigger commercial planes are more steady and they fly at a height that, an altitude, I should say, sorry, that is more steady in what they call the free air, which is like, it's like more still, the air is more still. But it's a good point anyway, Tent was making. But it's still not the Coriolis effect.
Right. That's why I made it, because they'll interchange the word drift and talk about real correction for drift when winds are hitting an airplane off course and try to sneak it in.
Yeah, you have to define the drift they're claiming. Sorry,
Exactly. You have to define what drift they're actually talking about. Is it the drift in the gyro that you say is because it's a piece of mechanical equipment and it's got a flaw that you have to reset each time? Is that the drift that you're talking about? What drift? Because if it's proving Earth spins, it's Coriolis effect. And that's Earth turning beneath stuff to see 15 degrees an hour of deviation. Anything outside of that isn't a claimed proof of Earth spinning. It's normally an excuse for why we don't see that effect that Earth claims will have.
It's this. There's a similar situation with celestial navigation, that we get the books of celestial navigation and the anti-flat earthers are arguing with the claims of celestial navigation and trying to make us look, like we don't know what we're doing. When in reality, the anti-flat earthers are totally against the globe claims to begin with. So when we open up celestial navigation books and it says all your angle measurements are happening with you at the center, as if you're the center of the Earth, you're the vertex, and it's a equatorial plane, it's got to be a flat circle disk in order to get your elevation angle. And they say it, they show it. I got pictures. We've all seen it. They fight that, just like they fight the globe claims. They fight celestial navigation claims.
Celestial navigation use angles. The angles aren't possible on the globe. They measure perspective. Globe has to be orthographic. Yeah, they have to show us how to measure things orthographically in the real world, not on a piece of paper, not on a computer screen. Show us this orthographically. Can't. It's impossible. There is no angles. There is no perspective on a globe. Doesn't exist. So it's over from that point, but they'll argue with you for 5 hours in a row. But it's over at that point. Completely over.
Yeah, I like the way you formed that argument, because in their world, the star is declining in angle because the Earth is curving, right? That's what they want to say, but there's no R. You got to have R for that.
Yeah, well, no, all celestial bodies are moving due to in the way they're moving at the rate they're moving from our position due to either Earth curve for Polaris or Earth rotation for the other stars and sun and moon or whatever. But the point is that for Polaris, to even get the radius they need to come up with their orthographic Earth curve maths, they need a flat plane to create to take the angles to Polaris from. So they get all these angle measurements of a flat plane, and then they back calculate that into a radius, and then they claim orthographically that the reason Polaris rises and falls in the sky is due to somebody going back down over the curve or up over the curve, north to south, south to north, whatever, right, on their globe. But that was started with flat plane measurements to Polaris. And then they back calculated it to the point where they hijacked it. But the problem with that hijack is this. That hijack means that they then don't have perspective. Perspective doesn't exist on our globe. So when they're talking about an angular size to the sun or anything else, it can't. It can't exist on your globe. Your globe is a mathematical model. All the maths are there. I can show them. We can all show them at this stage. Your maths are orthographic. There's no way out of it. There is no perspective. Unless one of them can show us for perspective and angular size change and all this is accounted for in the mathematics, something that Nathan has been asking for years, then that's the end of that.
Well, that's why I brought up celestial navigation when it says the angle measurement is you at the center, not the surface, and that's a plane. So they get all their angle measurements from there, and then they say, but we can't show the world that we live on a disk, a circle, something round, but not a sphere. And this is where you get angles from, so we can't do that. So let's make this the equatorial plane, and let's build an arc and say we live on a globe. So yeah, all the angle measurements come from a flat baseline. And then, as you said, they go and take that and create a radius value to create the globe. But then beautifully, then you get rid of perspective as the reason why Polaris goes down in the sky.
Yeah, but you get rid of all perspective in all ways.
I know, that's why your point's so strong. Yeah. No, that's why I like it. There's no, how can someone say there's no perspective on Earth when we experience perspective on Earth?
Well, that's the shit that I used to laugh, like, wait a minute, why are these guys telling us straight up to discount perspective completely? Like, they're making fun of us for using perspective, and we're talking about shit that we see. Can you ever see something without some sort of perspective? I didn't think so.
Impossible.
That, unless you can see orthographically, and I don't know where to buy them glasses. Do you understand? Where do I get the orthographic binoculars? Where do I get them? Can't. They don't exist. We don't see in orthographic view. We see in perspective view. Everything is perspective.
Yeah, that's why we call it Muppet vision.
Yeah. Better, Tom.
Well, when my thumb blocks out the moon, is my thumb bigger than the moon?
Definitely.
I got hands-on experience, Chocolate.
Well, the thing about it is this, right? We'll go back to the point we were talking about yesterday. In celestial navigation, other than their dip correction that they make, right? That little dip correction they make, the current globe's dip correction from a geometric to the actual horizon, other than that, there was no accounting for a horizon that changes its position. There's no refracted horizon being accounted for. They account they mathematically account for it at the very start, but then they don't account for it anymore. And that's all very well, and they think they are covering all their bases. But who accounted for this with the measurements, with the orthographic calculations for why Polaris rises and drops? There's no accounting for it there. Nobody accounted for it there. There is no accounting for it within that. That maths is solid, as in it comes directly from actual flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. Perspective view. That's where all that comes from. So maths is based on that. So, and that turns into an orthographic globe. So they can't bring in 7/6R corrections because that is referencing the actual surface. of their geometric surface of their geometric globe when it comes to Polaris. So then throwing that in that little dip correction thing in the current celestial navigation means absolutely nothing, because it wasn't added for the measurements to Polaris when they turned that orthographic. It was, because if they try and add that in there, it means the globe is smaller than it really is. Mathematically, it means it's not 21,600 nautical miles in circumference at that point. You understand? Tell me if you don't get that.
Like a repeat.
Yeah, say that again, mate.
Yeah. When they take all the elevation angles to Polaris, right, from the 90 degrees, whoever was ever at the zenith to Polaris, where Polaris was at the zenith, right? When they take all those measurements from there back to the equator, right, they're taking all them as flat out elevation angles, right? And what does that give them? It gives them a 5,400 nautical miles horizontal. Now, what they did is they made a diameter out of that, right, which gives them double, would be 10,800 nautical miles. And they just doubled that again. And that's how they created the latitude and longitude grid. But the point is that they then ended up with a 21,600 nautical mile horizontal that they then turned orthographically, right, and made into a circle. And then they got the radius of that circle and converted that radius to statute miles. So the point I'm making is they never did any dip corrections for any of that. So the size in circumference around their globe in nautical miles is 21,600 nautical miles. If they didn't add in this dip correction that they keep on trying to add in current celestial navigation, that was never added in those maths. So the point I'm making is that means if they tried to add that in, it would be less than their globe would be less than 21,600 nautical miles in circumference. So their claim of it being part of celestial navigation is nonsense, because it's not part of the elevation angles to Polaris. It was never added in as a begging the question fallacy when they're doing their elevation angles to Polaris. It's not part of them. It's mathematically not part of their back calculation of the flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. So it's ridiculous that they're trying to add it in celestial navigation afterwards, thinking they're covering their bases, because it's not part of the Polaris calculations, which is what gave them their radius. It can't be smaller than 21,600 nautical miles. Mathematically, it can't be for that to work. It can't be bigger, it can't be smaller. It has to be exactly the size it's measured across a flat plane. Well, maybe this might be confusing people. I might have to make a little presentation on it, and it may become more.
No, I understand what you're saying. The zenith angle is always 90 degrees to the horizon. That's the maximum. It can never be more than 5,400 miles. That's what they have to build around in order to make their globe after they get flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. I get it. I know what you're saying.
Exactly. It has to be. The distance from the GP of Polaris to the equator has to be 5,400 nautical miles, flat or mathematical globe. So there is no place for their dip correction. Their dip correction they add in these days, but it doesn't matter, because where was their dip correction at that time? With the elevation angles to Polaris, there was no dip correction. There was no correcting for a globe because they hadn't created one yet.
Well,
the try and do yes. Well, the point I'm making, if I take a different star tent, and that star travels from my 90 to my 0, that'll be 5,400 nautical miles. But they try and add in a dip correction for that. But there can't be a dip correction.
No, but there isn't actually one. This is what we've done all this last week and prior by showing the pictures. The height of I is the dip, and the height of I dip is between sea level and the sensible horizon, or known also as astronomical horizon, which is at your eye line with a bubble. Okay, so you have a right angle coming from the vertex of your eye at whatever height you're above the ocean with a bubble sextant. Now, if you're going to use the horizon and you're still at that same height and you're not using a bubble sextant, you have to aim at the Earth's horizon where sky meets the sea. Well, when you aim that, you have an obtuse angle. So now you've got to do dip correction, height of eye to sea level, so that you can match what you could have had with the bubble, horizontal, so you can get your elevation angle. And that's always to your visible horizon, which we showed was called the offing. So whatever you see with your eyes, that's all that the sextant you can aim at. And that's considered a plane. That's considered, the minute you bring it down, that is parallel to that bubble horizontal as well. What they do is in the drawings, because they want to make you think you're on the globe, is draw that line you're talking about to the geometric horizon that doesn't exist, that they've told us we can never see because of atmosphere. And then they're saying you're also doing some correction for that. Well, that is something that's never done in celestial navigation, because dip correction is height of eye between visible horizon and astronomical or sensible, which is a horizontal at your eye line, which both have to be straight in order for you to get an angle. So that drawing is a trick. And like you said, it's mathematical, but it's not being done with the height of eye to sea surface. That's just strictly to get it on the plane that we live on. And by the way, that is the center of the Earth for them. When you're doing that, they're saying all the calculations in the books that you're going to refer to, that's as if you were on that plane and it's you. It's not the Earth in the center. It's you you're at the center. I mean, if all their math is based on the plane at the center and the celestial sphere is this made up thing where the stars are everywhere and the angles are from the center of the Earth to that, well, yeah, you can get an angle from there because you got a disk. But there is no center of the Earth like that. It's the surface.
But you're hitting on the point that's most important, and this is a better way to explain it. To create the globe in the first place, which started out with the radius, they had to use the actual horizon that we actually see. So to create the geometric horizon in orthographic view, they had to use the actual horizon in the first place, because that's the horizon they used for the elevation angles, the flat Earth elevation angles, the Polaris. So once they had all their measurements made using a flat plane, they then turned it into a circle. They just basically multiplied it by 4 and turned it into a circle. Right? They multiplied it by 4 and made 21,600 nautical miles straight line. But then they turned that into a circle. And once they did that, then they had a mathematical geometric horizon. But there was no geometric horizon when they were doing their elevation angles to Polaris. It didn't exist because the globe didn't exist. So it's a paradox.
Yeah.
Then their claim of a geometric horizon is a paradox because they had to create their globe, the radius of their globe and their geometric horizon and their 8 inches per mile square drop off of flat plane measurements using the actual horizon. That's the paradox here. That's the problem they have. So when they claim that they're doing a dip correction, some nonsense dip correction from their geometric horizon up to the actual horizon with celestial navigation, their dip correction only comes from the measurements using the actual horizon in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Dip correction.
This is where. Sorry, guys. I was saying I was demanding off that Zanuck yesterday. I was asking him, after you've taken your elevation angle from a flat baseline, what correction do you do then, Zanuck, to account for your Earth curve? Which there isn't any in the books. But this is what they keep jumping on, dip. I said, no, dip is height of eye. It's height of eye above the level of the sea. But they're adamant now that the dip is to correct for Earth curve, which is a load of trollop. And this is how desperate they are at the moment.
It is and it's not, because currently in celestial navigation, the dip correction isn't height of eye. It originally was height of eye, But now they've changed it and took the two apart. Now height of void correction and dip correction are two different things. The dip correction is a 7/6 R correction from their geometric horizon up to the actual horizon. That is the dip correction. So when they claim that, that's a mathematical claim that they can support with celestial navigation. But they can't support it in reality, because it's after they do that. In reality, they have to do height of void correction. So in reality, nobody does that dip correction. People only do height of void correction. They just pre-assume that the horizon we see is a refracted up horizon. That dip correction is only mathematical, and it didn't exist when they were doing the elevation angles to Polaris. The dip correction and the geometric horizon is all a back calculation from flat Earth measurements. Ask them where there was the dip correction ask them where the dip correction was in the elevation angles to Polaris, flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. Where was the dip correction taken into account there? They can't claim dip.
How long do you think it'll be before they realize every time they claim the horizon is refracted, they're kind of making our point by saying the horizon is simply an optical phenomenon as opposed to a physical sphere edge? How long do you think it'll take them to understand that?
About 6 years, maybe.
Another 6 years? God damn it.
I don't know, but my original, when this question first turned up 2 years ago or more now, I stated that 40% of them will never get it. I don't know how long it will take the other 60%, but 40% of them will never get it. They'll be old in nursing homes and they still won't understand it.
What's scarier would be the percentage of those that don't want to get it. Because I know there are a lot that won't get it. But I'm sure there are some that just don't want to get it. Even if they actually might get it, but they just don't want to. They fight it. Because once you get it, once you know, right? Can't come back. So it's like, la, 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 just put my fingers in my ears and just ignore what's going on. So that I don't have to deal with the reality that I actually deal with every day when I open my eyes, wake up, and walk around in the world. Imagine forcing yourself to have to imagine the world the opposite of what it presents itself to you as. How painful that is. Sad. Any Globers want to tell us about their magical spinning water ball?
So just again there, Brian, sorry, mate. Yeah, so we've got the height of eye correction, but what you're saying is there is an actual dip correction that's happening that they're jumping on as if that was a correction for some sort of spherical Earth after they've taken the elevation angle from a flat baseline, of course. Now they've got to account for curvature afterwards of using the flat baseline. But just go over that again, Brian, with the dip, what they're jumping on, mate, if you can, if you don't mind.
Sorry, one second. I go through it now. What they're claiming is that before you do anything, right, before you even take your angle, you would do your dip correction within their claim. Because there's no point in you using the actual horizon with the horizon mirror on your sextant when you believe that that has to be first refracted up from a geometric horizon. So in reality, nobody's going to do this dip correction that they're claiming. But you can, if you want, before you start, you can do a little calculation for the dip from a geometric horizon to the actual horizon. And then you can then take your angle and then do height of void correction to correct it. But first, if you want, you can believe you're on a globe and beg the question and do your little dip correction first. Because how can they use the horizon we see, the real horizon, and use it to take an angle to a celestial body with a marine sextant from the deck of a ship, when they believe that they have to first do a mathematical correction for where that horizon should be in their model, which is below where it is. So the dip correction is a purely mathematical. Yeah.
Sorry. So obviously, height of eye. If that's not, if the correction for height of eye isn't corrected after the angle measurement, that's going to put your fix off by some point. But dip correction, the dip correction, what you're referring to, what the globers are jumping on, that wouldn't matter. That would not affect the fix, then, would it? Then, so it doesn't. It's irrelevant.
It has no place in anything. In reality, you're going to use the real horizon, aren't you? What other horizon do you have to use?
So if it's not irrelevant to the fix, then it's a waste of time, then, isn't it? The dip correction. If it's not going to affect your fix and your position when you do your fix, then it's irrelevant.
Let me try to explain.
1 second. One second. I will leave you in 10. Just give me a second. Yeah, it's a completely irrelevant correction that doesn't need to happen. In reality, you're going to use the horizon you see, which is the real horizon. Their dip correction is a correction from a geometric horizon that you can't see, that's purely mathematical, up to the actual horizon that we actually see. But in reality, you're just going to take out your sextant, you're going to point at the horizon mirror at the horizon, and you're going to take your angle, and then the only correction you're going to do in reality is height of void correction. This globe's dip correction, the current dip correction, you're never going to use that. So I would suggest for anyone out there to just keep stating height of void and just don't waste your time even going into the dip conundrum. Go on.
Sorry, that just confirms the point then, doesn't it, for everybody? That if it's not needed and it's not going to affect your fix to pinpoint where you are on the surface of the Earth, then it's not irrelevant. So it's not needed. So it's an absolute waste of time.
Yeah. Well, just before, very quick, before 10 says something. Ask any one of them one deck, and this is for any of the flat earthers out there, ask them when their dip correction takes place. If any of them say anything but at the very, very start, they're wrong. Their dip correction takes place at the very, very start, because you can't even use your sextant, according to them, until you've done the correction for where the horizon is now as opposed to where they believe it should be. They use the real horizon with the sextant, the only horizon that exists. But their dip correction is only something that they can put in at the start. Because it's a pointless thing. It's a mathematical correction, means nothing. Begging the question. Sorry, go on, Ted.
It's not being done. It is. Here, let me explain it the way I see it, the way I read it. Height of eye is the only correction in the celestial navigation tables that you have to do. And that is your height above sea level. That's it. It's to the visible horizon, your local circle around you, 360 if you're in the middle of the ocean, it's all flat. Because you have an obtuse angle if you're 10 feet above that visible horizon, sea level. You got to get down to zero to have that baseline so that the vertex is not 10 foot above sea level, but right as your eye is on the sea. That is it. Nothing more is being done in actual corrections with sextant and celestial navigation. In their drawings, they show you a globe, a dingleberry, under that tangent plane. And then they have a line crossing down to show Earth curve where they label geometric horizon. When we first came out with this, I remember the anti-flat earthers saying, oh no, dip is up, 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 up. I go, show me up. Show me where it says it's a plus. It's always a minus. when they have that geometric horizon labeled on the dingleberry, what Brian is trying to say is they want to convey a message that first, mathematically, you bring that geometric horizon to match the tangent plane of the sea surface, which would be your visible horizon. That is never being done. That's what they want to say is being done. And then after that's done, then you have parallel. Your sensible horizon is parallel now with the sea horizon. No, that's not the way the books teach it. The books teach it as height of eye above sea level is a always subtraction. Now, this is where they got in trouble early on, is when they had to say it's a plus correction. Well, because the geometric horizon on the dingleberry that's going along the curve, that would have to be an up correction to make it level. But there's no language in the sextant corrections for any up correction. It's always height of eye minus subtraction, because it's only to the sea surface. So Brian's just pointing out the trickery they do with the dingleberry in a mathematical way that's never part of any correction. But they want you to think that first they bring that geometric horizon up, and then height of eye can be parallel. That's what they're trying to make you think is happening, but that's not what's happening. But go to the picture in the Master B, the one I just posted. Tell me when you see it.
My Master B is the contents page.
No. It's the last slide, the Master B.
Yeah, the last slide I've got is that contents page.
Can you refresh? Because I just posted it. It shows it's there. It's after QE's posting and weird.
Can you post it again? Because I've not got it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let me copy. I'll post it again. Oh, I'm sorry. I was in the wrong room. I was in the war room. I'll paste the Master B.
That's okay.
Okay, it's a Master B. It's a Master B. My bad.
Okay.
Okay, so here you have a wonderful illustration that can cover the subject. So you have a vertical plane, the dotted line. You got the zenith, the instrument center. Okay, that's your eye. That's the sextant. That's the horizontal plane. That's the center of the earth with the equatorial plane. That's it right there. Then you got a horizontal angle, which is for your bearing, your azimuth. And that's got to be straight lines horizontally, not curving. And then you've got your angle of elevation, your vertical angle. And there you have celestial navigation because it's a horizontal coordinate system, alt-az, altitude and azimuth. The altitude is the vertical angle as shown there, coming from the baseline that's straight on that disk, and then the horizontal angle starting from north all the way to where you line up with the bearing of the sun or star or moon that you're shooting. And then, I love this, to the very other side, they show vertical angle depression. Okay, well, that's what we talked about, a depression angle. All right. If I'm looking at, and I've been at sea so many times, Brian, you've been at sea, even though you don't like it. Nathan, you've been on a boat before. When you look out, you just see the visible horizon. You don't see anything dipping away from you to where you've got to make a vertical, a depression angle adjustment. How do you make a depression angle adjustment off of a plane?
We'll get down about it.
Forget about it. You don't. They're showing you a horizontal plane here. And then they're saying if we crack it, that you can see crack, and whether that is a silhouette of a mountain, maybe. And there you are at the top where you're supposed to be at the center of a plane. But now there is a depression angle if you're high up on the mountain to the horizon, which would be the edge of that horizontal plane, Al-Biruni style. So whether this is a silhouette of a mountain or a crack in the plane, it works either way for us because, number one, from a mountain and you shoot the horizon, you must do a height of eye correction, just like it shows here, and that's a depression angle. If you're going to break this horizontal plane and say there's something underneath, when is that ever done? We can never do it because when we look out, we just see the horizon. Do you see what I'm getting at? it's over for these people. The whole celestial navigation is based on the elevation angle measurement and azimuth, and it's an Earth-based horizontal system. It's not RA and DEC, which is based on the sky map with the equatorial Mount telescope. And you're using the Earth, the horizon, and it's always a plane, or else you can't get your angle. It just moves it down.
Nathan,
to the
would you
center.
go? Sorry.
Go on. No, I'm done. I'm done, Brian.
Sorry, I thought you were finished. I was going to ask Nathan,
Cheers,
would
guys.
you go back go back just one deck before you leave, if you're leaving. Just Nathan, would you go back to the diagram before the last one, the second last one, the cross staff? Figure 411, a cross staff measures the horizon angle to the sun. If you
in the
wouldn't mind.
war room. Where is this?
Is this in the war?
War room. War room.
I'll post that into the master beef here.
Give me a second, because I'm not in the war
No,
room. I'm in master beef.
It's okay. Sure, it's gone into the master beef. It's gone into master beef.
God. Okay. So back to master beef. Okay, just give me 10 seconds. The last one the last one that was posted, right?
Yes, that's it.
With the dude holding cross staff,
Cross
right?
staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it up.
Okay, thank you. So for anyone, let's say one deck or anyone else, if you look at this diagram and look at this spherical shape in it, you have a man with his eye line at the water. But if you look down there, you have G. You have an arrow going up at an angle from his head says P, another arrow going down saying G. So what they want, their dip correction, is taking G and bringing it up to where it says B. That's what their dip correction is. But we only ever see B. We never see G, only ever B's. So if you take G as their geometric horizon, I'm not saying it is in this diagram, but just take it that way. They want to bring G up to meet B mathematically before they ever use the sextant. Yet they've never seen G, they can only ever see B. So their dip correction is something that can be done or not done. It doesn't matter. If they're going to do it, they do it at the start. Because basically you don't see G, it doesn't exist. It's only a the geometric horizon only exists in the maths, just like Rumpus and all them have said. So their dip correction is just bringing G up to B. It means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Wouldn't this be the point that kind of Boymar made the other day when QE put him in the rubber boat, put him in the water? And he said, do you still have to correct to this non-visible horizon that you were correcting to? And he said,
exactly.
No. But he should have said yes.
He should have said yes, but in reality, he had to say no because,
In reality, he equivocated between the original meaning for dip correction and their globe. Most of them may not even know that they're equivocating. That's the thing about it. A lot of them may not even realize. Some of them will, but a lot of them won't. And you have to stop them if they start telling you about dip correction, then they have to start defining it. Define dip correction.
Brian,
there's an older and a current. Go on, Ted.
Yeah, Brian, let me ask you a question. I'm glad you chose this. I put that there, and I'm glad you took it to summarize it. So let me ask you something. If G is the geometric horizon, and you bring it up to B, that's not taking it down. That's an up, add, not a subtract. Correct?
Yeah, that's an addition. Yes.
Okay, that's never in the functionality of corrections for a sextant. So it's never being done, is what Brian is saying. But these anti-flat earthers want to use that geometric horizon line that doesn't exist, but does if you put the dingleberry under the plane, the tangent plane. Then they say, well, see, we have to do this first, and then we do height of eye. No, that's what you want to tell us by putting a dingleberry where it doesn't belong. But I have not found one sextant book, one correction table that says height of eye is other than subtract it from the height you're at to the sea surface. G is below sea surface. It would have to be an add. And when we first came out, the anti-flat earthers jumped on this, like Brian said. Oh no, that's you guys. You got to add. You got to bring it up. It's an up correction. No, it's not. Show me where it's an up correction. It's a down correction. It destroys it. It's not being done ever.
How they equivocate, this is very sneaky what they do. Now, some of them are just working off of parroting. They don't really even realize they're doing it, but some of them do realize exactly what they're doing. How they equivocate is they will state that you take an angle with your sextant and that angle will be obtuse. But they then will state that you bring up the line that goes to our actual real horizon up to the oil line in a horizontal to make a right angle, right? They can describe it that way, right, if they want. But it's described in celestial navigation as the vertex of the angle, not the line that goes to the horizon coming up, but the vertex that's at the oil line and the oil line going down to the water. That's how it's described in celestial navigation. So when they say up, well, a lot of them won't even know what they're talking about. They won't even realize they're equivocating. They think that they are, when they say up, using the actual sextant, they're talking about moving the line from the horizon to the oil line, right? But when they're saying up concerning their belief, it's up from their geometric horizon to the actual horizon. So they're equivocating between two things. That's what they're doing. They're mixing things up. Some of them don't realize they're doing it, but a lot of them do realize they're doing it. And they're flipping between. So my question would be this. What is the dip correction that's done with the sextant? Right? If
would that be the same geometric horizon that we can't see?
Yes, and that's the problem that Hoyle and I faced.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes, their correction
leave
is
me
from a
ask this.
geometric
Leave me ask
tangent
this.
point. Yes, it is, Chocolate. The one we can't see.
But let me ask you this. Let me ask, this is for any, to ask any of them. Tell them to define the dip correction within the sextant, right? And they'll do it. Then ask them, now, do height of eye correction. And then you'll find out whether they're lawyers or whether they don't know what they're talking about. Because the height of eye, the thing they're talking about, bringing the line up to the oil line, which is what they're trying to equivocate between, that is height of eye correction in one way. But the reason that they bring the vertex down and not the line up is because they're trying to use the surface of the water. They're trying to use the horizontal baseline of Earth. That's what they're trying to do with that process. That's how it's described that way. But the ballers can describe it slightly differently mathematically if they want, and equivocate between a correction from a geometric horizon to the actual horizon as opposed to a line. The equivocation then is from the line to the actual horizon up to the eye line of the observer, which doesn't have anything to do with globe. That's just making a parallel line with another horizontal underneath the observer. It's complete not a nonsense.
It's a ghost of an argument. It doesn't even exist. It's never being done. It's a joke. Well, again, back to dip or not to dip, that is the correction. When you get your eyeball on the surface of the sea, do you do dip correction? No. Okay, what geometric horizon? It's over right there. It simply goes away because it's not part and function of any corrections applied to get a true altitude. To get a true altitude means a right angle, as if you were at the center of the Earth on an equatorial plane where they've got all the tables that have to match what you're doing from their supposed surface of a globe. So you got to match a right angle. How do you match a right angle? If you're 10 feet above the horizon, you have an obtuse angle. So you bring your eyeball to the ocean. Now you have a right angle. Okay, well, they say that's as the same as if you did it from the center. Well, guess what? You get an angle from the center because it's a plane. But you can't get an angle from the top because it's curving. I mean, it's dumb. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
And you don't bring the line up from, it's not described as bringing the line up from the horizon to the oil line, although you can mathematically describe it that way. It's not described that way in celestial navigation. And the reason it's not is the point of using the horizon in the first place, the real horizon, is that you have something that you can rely upon. Because otherwise, why would you even use the real horizon? You just use a bubble sextant from the boat. But why don't you use a bubble sextant or an artificial horizon? Because the boat is moving all the time. So the only thing steady you have to go with is the horizon. The horizon is always steady. It's always a visual location. It's always always steady. It's not moving. That's why they use it, because it's not refracting up and down. It's not moving, and that's why they bring the eye line down. Not
Well
the line
said.
up.
Well said. And it's also, like you said, the most stable thing in the middle of the ocean. It's the only thing they can use with the Mariner sextant, because they have to, when you see them doing the waggle of the sextant, that's just to find vertical to that horizontal horizon, which serves to make the perpendicular the right angle. That's the whole purpose of the horizon. It has to be horizontal. It's got to be flat. And you waggle your sextant with the image of the sun, let's say, until it's barely kissing. And you can tell between the left waggle, the middle, and the right where middle is. And middle is vertical. There's the zenith of the sun directly over that horizon. So now your angle is going to be proper with the plane of the instrument. We just went through this last week.
It's all good, this, guys, because I think everybody needs to know these little finer points for the argument. And I'm glad I brought that up about that dip correction and what they're jumping on. But like you say, at the end of the day, they're measuring an elevation angle at the end of the day, whatever point they take that at. They're using the flat baseline and they're using the sea level to do it, and there's no curve involved whatsoever. So, but it's just good to catch up on all the.
I just want to ask. Hang on, Brian. I want you, because something he said got my mind to think of this. Did Al-Biruni do an up measurement when he took the dip measurement from the top of the mountain to the horizon? Did he have to do an up measurement anywhere there?
That'd be a no.
No. There was what geometric horizon? He was shooting the horizon, and he's on top of a mountain, and he only knew the height of the mountain when he did an elevation angle from sea level to the mountain in 2 steps to get it. Then he goes on top of the mountain, and now he's got a depression angle to that same horizon that he used to get an elevation angle from. So now he's got to do height of eye if he wants to do anything. But he's not doing geometric horizon, something you can't see because the atmosphere is there. This is all make-believe.
Yeah, that's why
that's what the globe
that's why
is.
they put it in
The globe is all make believe.
But that's why they put in the little caveat with when they talk about Al-Biruni on Wikipedia or anywhere else, that he had to refer to the mathematics of Pythagoras. What they're doing there is they're taking away the onus on Al-Biruni and putting it back in time to Pythagoras. So they're claiming Al-Biruni measured the radius of the globe, but then they're taking away the onus on him to be labelled with that and bringing it back to Pythagoras. Now, it's complete and utter nonsense, because they know Al-Biruni didn't do any dip correction unless he already had all the calculations given to him from someone else. He didn't do any dip correction. Why would he do dip correction if he was measuring the radius of a globe? Why would he do it? He wouldn't even know dip correction was necessary. It's complete and utter nonsense.
His dip correction is his calculation for R. That's his whole premise, isn't it? That he'll get a greater dip going up there. So when he wants level, he finds level, he then measures the horizon, sees what that's off, and then uses his altitude to then calculate R. That's the convoluted thing, but fundamentally that reifies the horizon as the leading edge of the ball. So that's why there's a militarised black swan waiting at the top for him. Once he gets there, he reifies the horizon. Well, black swan.
Well, yeah. Well, he has to, for Al-Biruni to do what he was claimed to have done, he would have to, and I remember saying this before a few weeks ago, he would have to have done a dip correction from a geometric horizon. So how could he be using the actual horizon without adding in 7/6R? He couldn't. He'd have to have 7/6R, so he'd already have to have R to be measuring R. It's complete and utter nonsense. It's paradoxical in four different directions.
He hadn't made that bit up yet, Brian. That hadn't been invented 7/6R yet. Everything was geometric back in the first and
11th
second century.
century.
Yeah.
But that's refraction. Al-Biruni didn't make any allowance for atmospheric refraction. Did
He didn't make allowances for any of it, according to the story. He just used the horizon and measured the radius of a globe. That was the claim.
Well, how could he do that if everything's always refracted always?
Including the horizon.
Right.
The writing I've read, Chocolate, and the videos I've seen, especially that one guy in England who does a full-on thing on him, no refraction. He wasn't even aware of it.
I'm going to be home in about 15 minutes, right? If you hang about, guys, I've got a little bit to add to Brian's perspective stuff. I did some work yesterday on, what is it? Apogean. I forgot the bloody words.
Perigee.
Yeah, and the same for the sun, the helio, whatever it was. And
it's
but I did a little bit of work on that, but I need to get to the computer. I'll be back in about 15. But it does demonstrate exactly your point, and a very interesting one I want to make, if I can, with regards to what they're doing.
I'll wait. I'll be here. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm going to try to be here. And it is actually technically Nathan that first initially started making a point of the perspective issue years ago. Even though we might have been talking about perspective for years, Nathan pointed it out that it was perspective hijacking. Well, I know he said perspective omitting.
It's QE.
QE then added
I
in.
can't take credit
Yeah,
for that.
I know QE. I just said that. I just said QE added in the hijacking part. You were saying omitting. But the point is that you were focusing on that point. So this is technically your point, regardless of what I do with it or Adam or anyone else.
It is a joke though, because I've been thinking about it for a while. They've been jumping on this. I've been in talks with these people. Well, you know, Polaris and the 60 miles degree angle, it can only happen on a globe. But as soon as they mention a degree and an angle, well, they're obviously measuring that from a flat plane. So it's all over from that point onwards, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, because nautical miles are minutes of degree. Degree of what? Degree of angles. What's an angle? A measurement of perspective. That requires a flat plane.
Exactly. Yep.
Just one day, just for yourself and anyone else out there. Don't waste your time talking about dip correction. Just ask them, how does height of void correction work? Keep talking about height of void correction. Because when they talk about dip correction, they can start equivocating between bringing a dip of a line up from a geometric horizon to the actual horizon, and then equivocating between that and bringing a line up from the actual horizon to the right line. Right? Just ask them two questions. Right? Define height of void correction, and how does that work? Right? How does height of void correction work on your globe? Right? That's going to kill him. And why did they use the horizon with the marine sextant? The reason they use the horizon because it's the only steady thing they have. Go on, Tim.
Yeah, let me add to Brian's, because again, the key is to get an angle, and you need a horizontal baseline to get an angle. So it's height of eye, because that's the way it is in the books. It's also referred to as dip, only in the context of a sensible horizon, a horizontal from your eye line to the correction of a height of eye to the sea surface. That's the difference that between those two parallel lines, because once you make the height of eye correction, you have a line now at sea surface that matches the sensible horizon, the artificial horizontal that was created by the bubble. So it's just matching that. Now, after that is understood that that is the gap that you're trying to fix, then at sea surface, do you still do dip correction or height of eye? No, you already did it. You're at sea surface. Well, what does sea surface have to be then? Horizontal. Why? Because it's got to match the sensible horizon. That is the difference between the two when you did height of eye. And so the whole point is the reason there is no dip correction when you use a bubble sextant to get that astronomical or sensible horizon horizontal, a better term, at your eye line, or the Mercury in the artificial horizon that doesn't use a bubble, is so that you can get an angle from a baseline. But since you're shooting the sun and the horizon mirror at the Earth's horizon, and you're not using the bubble or the artificial pan with Mercury, height of eyes to get it to sea surface. Do you see how it all works together? No dip if you're at sea surface, but you got to do dip correction, which is height of eye, to get to sea surface. It's not to correct for a non-existing geometric horizon that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to one extent is to don't talk about dip at all. Stick purely to height of eye correction and the use of and the reason for why they use the horizon, because these guys are going to start claiming that it's an up thing where the line comes up from the actual horizon, that they're then equivocating is the geometric horizon to the eye line. Then ask them what's height of eye correction, and then try and probably say, "Oh, we just tried to do it." Well, why are we using the actual horizon then?
I agree. I agree with you.
Ryan, I don't talk about the dip correction at all. I only talk about height of eye.
Well, hang on. Okay, go on. I need to finish off, but go on.
Well, go ahead, finish. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Tom.
Oh, no, it's
If I
okay.
can go after
Okay,
you.
let me finish. Yeah, I agree with Brian. Height of eye is the way to go. But should they bring up dip? Should they? You say, well, that's the difference between the sensible horizon and the ocean surface. That's the dip they're talking about. That's where you put dip. You don't put dip to their made-up geometric horizon. I showed pictures. I showed citations that is the amount of dip you're correcting for. They, like Brian said, want to take you to this mathematical one that doesn't exist.
Well, I'd ask them to define the difference between the two terms. That's the real problem. They're trying to equivocate between old and current definitions of the dip correction. Ask them to define the difference between dip correction and height of eye correction. If they state that they're the same thing,
it's the same thing. Okay, it's the same number you apply. Now, what the cause behind why you're doing it is what the difference is. So, if we go back to the really old stuff where it is explaining how it's calculated, it is how the angle to the deck limits the point where the horizon will resolve, how it will make a very minute difference in arc seconds. And that's what the adjustment's for. Now, those numbers play out the same, but the way in which it's described and matched mathematically is for a dipping geometric horizon subject to 7/6R, which is why it doesn't fit the geometry. That's their mathematical explanation behind it. But like I said, they're measuring to a geometric position, which they accept is refracted. It's a mess. Theirs, because they can't get a fix on something they don't know. So that to me is how I understand the two descriptive ways. One is actually resolved from raising the high and resolving horizons, so just practicality, and the other one then uses that data and ascribes it to Ball mathematics. Again, one is solely geometric and one is perspective based. The first one is solely based upon how the eye and the lens resolves the horizon differently because of the height of eye. Whereas the second one, it's once again a purely geometric relationship and adjustment. That makes sense?
Kind of.
To me.
Why is there no height of eye correction on a bubble sextant?
Because you've already established horizontal as a baseline.
You're
with the
only
bubble.
correcting to get it to be horizontal. If you're using a bubble, you've already got that.
But if it's a bubble sextant, if I understand correctly, is typically was used in aviation.
You want me to take it, Nathan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. When aviation first started, they were saying, how do we use the stars like the mariners do? How do we do that? And so they took a sextant up there and they shot the horizon. They could do it that way. It's just a lot of work because now you're 10,000 feet. You got to do height of eye, stuff like that. So Coutinho, a Portuguese man, Coutinho, came up with a spirit level attached to a sextant. and that became the bubble sextant. Admiral Byrd also used it according to writings. But my earlier study showed that it was Coutinho who was the first to do it in the 1920s. You can look him up. And then once you establish a horizontal at 10,000 feet, the angle to the sun, the star, and everything else is going to match as if you were on the ocean with the same angle. Zeniths, being the same. So that's why there's no dip correction with the bubble sextant, nor an artificial horizon, which Lewis and Clark used when they were inland, and they needed a horizon, but with hills and mountains in the way, how do you get a horizon? So they had a vial of mercury and a little container that can keep wind away from hitting the surface of the mercury, and then they would bring the sun image on that mercury. It'd be a double image. So you're shooting the sun basically twice. So you go in half the angle. So whatever angle you got. So if you got 80 degrees, it's really 40. If you got 60, it's really 30. And it worked the same way, but it was limited because of the doubling. So both those do not require dip because you're establishing horizontal at the eye line. Whereas at sea, your horizon mirror is aimed at the sea surface meeting the sky optically. Now, you got to get your eyeball on that ocean surface for it to be a right angle. How do you do that? Height of eye. Minus height of eye, you're at the ocean surface, all flat, right angle. Minus from 90. You got to have it. You got to minus from 90. You can't do it without it.
To attempt to summarize that real quick, what I think I'm getting from that is that because they establish a horizontal where they're at in the airplane versus when you're on the sea, you're sighting it at what you see out in the distance, the horizon. So the flat plane is out there and you have to bring it to where you're at by adjusting that. Is that correct?
Almost. You have an obtuse angle. It's a depression angle from your eye line if you had a bubble. And so what you're saying is, look, I'm holding the sextant and it's at my eye line, and my eye line to the horizon creates an obtuse angle. It give me too large of an angle. I need to get to 90. I need to bring my eye to the surface. So it's not horizontal at the horizon. It's got to be all horizontal from where your eye is on the ocean to the horizon and passed through the horizon optically to where the GP of the sun is hitting directly over on Earth somewhere in that first circle of equal altitude. It could be thousands of miles. It's all flat.
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Hope you're smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!